Chapter 1402. It's our devil class's fault for being late, so how can we trouble Dean Nan Tao to help us plead for leniency? Yi Qing Luo bowed deeply to the dean. Sir is kind and generous, not haggling with us kids. Qing Luo feels guilty and punish myself with a glass of wine. May all the teachers forgive devil class's behavior. Saying that, she stood up straight and picked up a glass of wine from the waiter's hand, draining it in one gulp. Decisive and direct action. Appropriate and humble words. Winning the favor of many of the teachers present. This was an intelligent girl. Knowing how to shoulder all the responsibility on herself. Knowing how to clear the academy of any negative comments. As compared to those female students who spoke out about the discord between themselves and their classmates. Devil class's student Yi Qing Luo was the truly intelligent female student. If their academy had such students who were not united in front of outsiders, they would absolutely expel that student from the academy. In case they disturbed the academy's peace. Dean Xian's expression eased up. The gaze he shot towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with sincerity and warmth. Yi Qing Luo wasn't considered stupid. Dean Xian was extremely delighted by Yi Qing Luo's words as he laughed out loud. Good lass. Good lass, quickly follow your dean to your seat and have a good rest. Yi Qing Luo led the devil class students to express her gratitude. Following that, she followed Dean Xian to the first seat on the right. The 100 or so students lined up one after another. Yi Qing Luo had gained the fondness of the dean earlier, and she was after all the champion class in the Heavenly Academy. Dean Xian arranged devil class's seat right at the front. Beside Yi Qing Luo were Long Yunzhan and Yan Xiaoyi. And next to them were Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai. Some were happy while others were worried. Yi Qing Luo's words earlier were totally flawless. But in Dean Nan Tao's ears, it was obvious that she was mocking him. Mocking that he was narrow-minded and only knew how to make use of children to achieve his own goals. He admitted that Yi Qing Luo's sarcasm was right. But he was ridiculed to such a state by a student in front of the various academies' deans. How could he tolerate this? At this moment, Dean Nan Tao not only hated the Heavenly Academy for snatching his position as the #1 academy, he also hated the bunch of yellow-haired brats in devil class. To put it bluntly, this exchange conference banquet was actually a welcoming banquet. The headmaster of the General Academy routinely asked the deans of each academy about the current situation of the academies. Following that, he used the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition to praise the devil class. After 3 rounds of drinks, the director of the General Hospital finally revealed the main purpose of today's visit. A few days ago, I invited the famous martial arts fanatic of the Nirvana realm, Mr. Gue Wu. Ghost warrior. All the deans sucked in a breath of cold air. Soon after, he looked around, wanting to see what the legendary ghost martial artist looked like. In the Nirvana realm, the ghost martial artist could be considered as a first-rate expert. He did not compete with Xian Qi, only with physical combat. There was probably no one in the world who could be his opponent. This person loved to practice martial arts and was a complete martial arts fanatic. And he especially liked to find people to spar with. There was a taboo in sparring with him. That was, since it was a spar, then it could only be physical combat and absolutely could not use Xian Qi. If the opponent dared to use Xian Qi during the spar, the outcome would definitely be extremely tragic. Don't think that just because the ghost martial artist was a martial arts fanatic, he didn't have a profound grade. Chapter 1403. When Gue Wu's name appeared, the representatives of the various academies were unable to contain the excitement in their hearts. In previous years, students from the various academies would display what they have learned in the academies, said the dean of the General Hospital with a benevolent smile on his face. It wasn't hard to tell that he was in an extremely good mood after inviting Gue Wu over. For this year's exchange meet, this lord feels that it would be better to assign the students to the Ghost Martial School and let them undergo 7 days of training. After that, the students of the various academies will compete with each other. What do you all think? All the academies were shocked. All of them nodded in agreement. How could they have any objections? He could be trained by a ghost warrior. To them, this was a great honor. How could they possibly refuse? The students were also excited. No one wanted to miss this opportunity. Even Enchanting clenched his fists in excitement. As for the devil class, their expressions were still as calm as before. Enchanting saw this and only sneered in disdain, thinking that Yiqing Luo and these lowly trash didn't know who Gui Wu was. Ghost warrior. Yiqing Luo mumbled this name softly, as she glanced sideways at Long Yunjian. Martial fanatics training will definitely be of great help to us. Long Yunjian lightly nodded his head. But there might be problems in the competition. His clear blue eyes glanced in Enchanting's direction. This was indeed a problem. The competition after the training was the Academy's competition. As for Enchanting and the others, it was obvious that they would not coexist peacefully with the devil class, not to mention working together. From the moment he walked into the hall, he had been clearly provoked by Di Nantao's words. Yiqing Luo was almost certain that Enchanting and the others had probably done something stupid. The other academies were likely to take advantage of this point to deal with the Heavenly Academy in the competition. Whether they want to help or not, it's up to us. Yan Xiaoyi cast a disdainful glance at Enchanting, who was beside her, and sneered. They don't have a sense of teamwork, but we don't. That's enough. That's right. We don't need their help. Kitty Lee, who was sitting behind them, chimed in. Kitty Lee's voice carried the soft murmur of a cat, her voice soft and gentle. But Enchanting and Wei Beilai, who were sitting in the front row, heard it clearly. Enchanting's expression darkened as he stared coldly at Kitty Lee. Before they could open their mouths, they heard Wei Beilai's displeased voice ring out, "You can rest assured about this. We are students of the elite class after all. Compared to trash like you who only managed to cultivate to the profound rank by using some kind of crooked method, we definitely won't drag you down. But you guys, don't give me any trouble." When Yiqing Luo heard that, she laughed instead of getting angry. Her long and narrow eyes curved, and she smiled happily. "You're right, we can't ask too much of you. As long as you don't give us any trouble, that's enough." The devil class students behind him all burst out in laughter. Enchanting and Wei Beilai's faces were ashen as they suppressed their anger. Sitting at the front, the Heavenly Dean and the two elders, Yun Yun and Yun Xiang, sensed something strange behind them and gave them a warning glance. The banquet came to an end under the atmosphere of all the academies hiding daggers in their smiles, all kinds of conspiracies, and all kinds of schemes. At the end of the banquet, the main courtyard's dean specially asked the devil class to stay. "Tomorrow's training, you have to double your efforts. This lord thinks highly of you." The main courtyard's dean personally instructed. Chapter 1404. This devil class, how did they manage to capture the principal's heart? How could they even get the principal's personal instructions? Over the years, only the devil class had enjoyed such treatment. Devil class and the rest humbly thanked the principal. Following that, they left the Heavenly Dean's entourage. Due to the envious gazes from the other deans, the Heavenly Dean's vanity was satisfied. So much so that along the way, he didn't give the devil class any face. He even changed his usual behavior and would chat with Yiqing Luo from time to time. Yun Duan also chimed in by the side, praising Yiqing Luo. Along the way, it was bustling with laughter. On the contrary, Enchanting and his entourage remained silent. Devil class was the center of attention. On the contrary, she was a student of the Heavenly Academy's class of gods, a proud daughter of heaven. She couldn't even compare to a devil class. During the entire banquet, no one mentioned her, Enchanting. Everyone's attention was placed on devil class, on Yiqing Luo. Goddess Enchanting, don't be angry, they won't be able to shine for long. Su Xiaolian whispered into Enchanting's ear. She had just opened her mouth when Enchanting's cold eyes swept past her. Enchanting's expression was sinister, because of jealousy. It revealed a bone-piercing chill. It's all your fault. How dare you spout nonsense in front of Sir? If not for this, Sir would not remember devil class. Remember Yiqing Luo, that slut. Su Xiaolian hung her head aggrievedly. Weren't these the words Enchanting had instructed her previously? As long as she found an opportunity, she would think of ways to embarrass devil class. To make the principal of the Heavenly Academy feel disgusted at the mention of devil class. But these words, Su Xiaolian didn't dare to say it out. Goddess Enchanting, don't worry, next time. There won't be a next time. Su Xiaolian's eyes flashed a trace of ruthlessness. Tomorrow, won't Sir Gue Wu give us training? Sir Gue Wu is a complete martial arts fanatic. We can borrow Sir Gue Wu's strength to give devil class a heavy blow. Enchanting narrowed his eyes. Is Sir Gue Wu someone we can make use of? Doesn't devil class like to be in the limelight? Then let her be in the limelight. As long as she attracts Sir Gue Wu's attention, we can add fuel to the fire. Su Xiaolian chuckled, her eyes filled with jealousy and resentment. Enchanting pondered for a moment, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. She did not answer Su Xiaolian's question. But he didn't stop her. Su Xiaolian understood that she was being used by Enchanting again. He returned to his dormitory, dormitory number 1. Yiqing Luo and Enchanting coincidentally walked towards the same room. Enchanting's footsteps halted as he recalled that his room had been forcefully occupied by Yiqing Luo. Recalling the director's attitude towards Yiqing Luo earlier. Enchanting knew very well that if she insisted on getting the headmaster to step in, it would only make the headmaster hate her. For a room, it's not worth it. Enchanting snorted coldly, turned around, and walked to another room. Yiqing Luo sneered as she returned to her room. Entering South Waves continent for the first time, Yiqing Luo was prepared to take some time to investigate the general situation of South Waves continent. Fortunately, Peach was also chosen by the dean this time. Earlier on the way back to the academy, Yiqing Luo had already asked Peach to get her Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group to give her a rough map of the South continent. The feeling of being summoned by Chi-Chi. She was very interested. Following Gue Wu's training was a total of 7 days. Including the competition between the academy students, it would take at least 10 days to half a month. Chapter 1405. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. Her gaze congealed towards a spot on the roof as she asked in a low voice, "Wind, are you there?" A gust of hurricane struck. She saw a young man dressed in black standing in the middle of the room. That immature face, icy cold expression, and his voice was emotionless, "Miss Yi." Ever since that snitch incident, Wind's heart had gradually confirmed Yiqing Luo's existence. He was also willing to stay by Yiqing Luo's side, protecting her in secret. Although Wind had not directly addressed Yiqing Luo as mistress of the imperial palace, like Tang Beiyuan, but his attitude towards Yiqing Luo was obviously different from before. Yiqing Luo waved her hand, asking him to come over. Wind hesitated for a moment, but still went nearer. A pair of eyes didn't dare to look at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she asked in a low voice, "Have you been inquiring about the Imperial Palace these few days?" Wind shook his head. "I've been ordered to protect Miss Yi, not leaving her side." "You don't know about the Imperial Palace's current situation?" Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. thinking that she could find out some news about Dmo Xian from Wind. Wind shook his head again. As he shook, he seemed to have understood something. If Miss Yi wants to know about the Overlord situation, you can ask him personally. Dmo Xian had already activated the telepathic link between the Profound Dragon Ring and the Profound Phoenix Ring. As long as Yiqing Luo wanted, she could contact the Overlord Dmo Xian anytime. Why was there a need to specially find him to inquire about the Overlord's news? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. I don't want to disturb him intentionally. At this juncture, Dmo Xian must be busy with the Imperial Palace's matters. The reason why the Imperial Palace was involved with the dark forces. The main reason was because of her. Dmo Xian went to destroy Wolf Saint's forces because of her. After this confrontation with the dark forces, the dark forces had indeed suffered a heavy blow. But Yiqing Luo was very clear. The dark forces would absolutely not let this matter rest. The Imperial Palace must have suffered a heavy blow in this confrontation. If she was concerned about Dmo Xian through the Profound Phoenix Ring, she was afraid she would not be able to control herself and wanted to see him. Hearing his voice, she wanted to see him. She wanted him to hold her in his arms and feel his warmth. She did not want to become Dmo Xian's burden. She didn't wish for Dmo Xian to hurt the hearts of the brothers in the Imperial Palace because of her. At this moment, what the Imperial Palace needed the most was Dmo Xian to hold the fort. Wind fell silent. He could tell that Yiqing Luo was sincerely thinking for Dmo Xian. He didn't approve of Yiqing Luo contacting the Overlord under such circumstances. He believed it. Based on the D Zun's personality, he would absolutely abandon the mess in the Imperial Palace and run over to meet Yiqing Luo. It was right for Yiqing Luo not to contact the Overlord first. Ah Feng. Yiqing Luo suddenly smiled and changed the topic. Actually, I want to ask you for a favor. Ah. Wind immediately regained his senses as he looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze. Tomorrow, I'm going to participate in the Academy's training. It will last for 7 days. Yiqing Luo summoned Chi from the pet space. If it's convenient, can you help me to search for a place and remember the map for me? Where? Ah Feng hesitated for a moment and asked. Chapter 1406. South Continent. Chi had sensed a strong calling. After her training in the academy, to find time to search for it, it would probably take up a lot of time. Might as well let Wind go scout the way first. By then, she would bring Chi over. At least it would save more than half of the time. Wind's expression changed slightly when he heard that. Miss Yi, the Overlord asked me to protect your safety. The place that Chi mentioned was half a day's journey from Valley Wind City. A round trip would take an entire day. He still had to find out the surrounding roads and draw a map for Yiqing Luo. No matter what, she would have to spend the night there at the earliest. It's alright, I'm in the headquarters, training with ghost martial artists. For a total of 7 days, even if the dark forces want to find trouble with me, they can't possibly do anything to me in the headquarters. Yiqing Luo saw Wind's worries and comforted him softly. At most, it's Si Qian and those who can't be seen in public, who would secretly do something. Wind hesitated. Yiqing Luo was training with ghost martial artists in the headquarters. It was indeed very safe. Wind had witnessed Yiqing Luo's battle power. Like Si Qian and Su Xiaoyan, those who wanted to make a move on Yiqing Luo. It was totally countered by Yiqing Luo in minutes. Don't worry, I'll tell Xian about it. Yiqing Luo saw the struggle in Wind's eyes and stood up. Then, tomorrow after I go to the headquarters training grounds, if you feel that I'm safe there, then you can make a decision. How about that? Yiqing Luo took a step back. Wind also took a step back and agreed to this request. The next day, Before it was 7 in the morning, all the students were woken up by Dean and the two elders. Devil classes students usually woke up at this time to start their morning training. Hence, not long after Principal Xian called out, the students of Devil class were already standing neatly in the courtyard. 62 students, no more, no less. Dean Xian's gaze towards Devil class revealed a trace of astonishment. I seem to finally understand the reason why Devil classes students were able to get first place. Yun Duan stood at the side, stroking his white beard as he looked at the youths in the Devil class who were standing ramrod straight, his eyes filled with admiration. Instructor Chu gave a rare smile. From the first day of training Yiqing Luo, I have an intuition that this girl can bring unlimited motivation to the people around her. Instructor Ho gave a rare compliment. Ever since student Yiqing Luo entered the Devil class, I've already guessed that the students in the Devil class would undergo an earth-shattering change. The two instructors were obviously not good at praising others. After this compliment, both of them felt a little awkward. They looked at each other. Suddenly, they laughed at the same time. That lass is someone who can create miracles. We're not surprised that the students of Devil class would have such a huge change. The two instructors said this in unison. The two of you are called cold instructors by the students, but you're actually praising a student like there's no one else in the world. Yun Duan's face was full of smiles, not forgetting to tease the two instructors. The instructors' expressions changed slightly, their cold and dignified gazes swept across the rows of youngsters in front of them. We acknowledge her ability. Just as they were speaking, the other students rushed over one after another. The students were still in a daze from sleep. They also didn't see clearly who the group of students standing in the courtyard were. One by one, they ran to the side of Devil class in a fluster. With this comparison. Chapter 1407. The Heavenly Dean furrowed his brows as he looked at the students who were still drowsy and then at the Devil class who were in high spirits. He was getting more and more dissatisfied with the students. The other students did not have the sense of urgency during training. They thought the dean wanted to hold a meeting for them before heading to the training grounds. The students did not pay much attention as they yawned and stood crookedly. Some of them were rubbing their sleepy eyes as they chatted softly with the students beside them. He had an extremely lazy look on his face. The dean's face turned darker and darker. When his gaze landed on Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai, the expression on his face eased up slightly. Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai stood at the side of the Devil class, dressed neatly and in high spirits as they stood upright. Fortunately, he still had two students from the class of gods. This gave the dean some comfort. Looking at the other students, the dean glanced at Yun Xiang who was at the side with a calm face. Yun Xiang understood and immediately coughed a few times. A scolding voice filled with profound qi spread in the sky above Tianzi Dormitory No. 1. Finally, it made those lazy students perk up. The Heavenly Academy's face was calm as they preached to everyone as usual, emphasizing that in the next 7 days, they must be united and harmonious, help each other and strive to suppress the prestige of the other schools. In the preaching, the students' spirits gradually sobered up. After about half an hour, the dean looked at the time and allowed the two instructors to lead the group of students to the training grounds of the headquarters. The group of people stepped on the road in a grandiose manner. No one noticed that on a big tree not far from Tianzi Dormitory No. 1, a young man in a white robe was pulling a young man in black, spying on everything in the Heavenly Academy. The young man in black was impatient. Young Master Mo, what are you trying to do? Even if you are interested in that girl, you don't have to drag me along, right? The young man in white raised his eyebrows and laughed evilly. Ah woo, we are good brothers. Of course you can't miss out on such things like squatting at the corner. Saying that, he used his elbow to nudge the young man in black. I am getting more and more interested in the Devil class, TSK. This training seems to be very interesting. The young man in black had a cold face and did not say a word. The training grounds of the headquarters. By the time the Heavenly Academy arrived, there were already quite a number of students who had arrived. The deans of the various academies had to go to the main hall of the headquarters to discuss the exchange between the academies with the deans. Therefore, all the students were led by their own instructors, elders, or teachers. The moment the Heavenly Academy arrived, the headquarters masters came forward to receive them and headed towards their direction. The Heavenly Academy was the top academy. He was standing at the first position near the entrance of the training ground. Next door was Nantao Academy. There were already about 20 to 30 academies that had arrived. The students also became more and more spirited and excited in this exciting and tense atmosphere. Their gazes scanned the surroundings for students from the other academies, and some even started chatting with each other. The students from the various academies were of similar ages, so it was easy for them to chat. Another hour passed, and all the academies had arrived. They stood in their respective positions according to their class. Surrounded by a group of elders, the vice dean stood in front of the students of the various academies. There were also students who couldn't stop their voices. Chapter 1408. In a split second, the entire training ground was dead silent. The vice dean of the general hospital swept his gaze over the childish faces below with a dignified look. His gaze finally stopped in the direction of the Heavenly Academy. Yiqing Luo noticed that the vice president's gaze was fixed on her. She was stunned and didn't understand what was going on. But she didn't show her puzzlement on her face. Her lips only curled into a smile and politely nodded to the vice president secretly. The vice president stroked his beard and smiled in satisfaction. Zi Qianqian's face turned gloomy. She shot a disdainful glance at Yiqing Luo and lowered her voice to ridicule. You really think you're the focus of attention? The vice president isn't even looking at you. What are you so proud of? Yiqing Luo was speechless. How free was Zi Qianqian? So free that he would stare at her for no reason. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered with Zi Qianqian. But Zi Qianqian obviously didn't intend to let Yiqing Luo off. Su Xiaolian had already sneered, the vice president is looking at our goddess, not any other Tom, Dick or Harry. Yiqing Luo still ignored her. Su Xiaolian had already dragged her other sisters over and began to mock them in low voices. Yiqing Luo could tolerate it. The devil class's students couldn't tolerate it any longer. Kitty Lee's beautiful eyes widened as she stared fiercely at Su Xiaolian. She breathed heavily through her nostrils. Her lips moved slightly, revealing her white teeth, and her slender fingers curled into claws. It seemed like she wanted to rush forward and bite Su Xiaolian and those gossiping female students. But before the devil class students could make a move, Instructor Chu had already walked straight to Su Xiaolian with a cold gaze. Student Su Xiaolian, your performance in the southern continent is enough for the school to force you out. This is your last chance. If you don't want this chance, then I can fulfill your wish. Su Xiaolian's face turned pale and subconsciously grabbed Instructor Chu's sleeve. Instructor. I'm sorry, I don't dare. I don't dare. Instructor Chu snorted coldly and shook off Su Xiaolian's hand and returned to the front of the team. This episode caused the other students who wanted to cause trouble to not dare to open their mouths or play any tricks. Kitty Lee retracted her claws and made a funny face at Su Xiaolian. Soon after, she turned her head seriously and looked at the vice headmaster in front of her. The vice principal of the General Institute spoke for a period of time before getting down to business. This time, the 7-day training will be conducted by Master Gui Wu, whom the Lord has sincerely invited, to train the students. Of course, the headquarters will also arrange for 5 instructors to assist Master Gui Wu. Pausing for a moment, the smile on his face widened. Raising his hand, he started to applaud. Now, let us invite Master Gui Wu and our 5 instructors. The students applauded excitedly. A few figures slowly walked over from the other side of the training ground. At the front were 2 handsome young men, followed by 4 middle-aged men. The students widened their eyes as they stared at the 4 middle-aged men, trying to guess which one of them was the Ghost Martial Grandmaster. Before the students could guess what was going on, the 2 youths slowly stepped onto the main stage and stood beside the vice principal. As for the 4 middle-aged men, they stood below the main stage. The students were at a loss. Yiqing Luo was shocked. She looked at the 2 youths in disbelief. It couldn't be. Chapter 1409. The 2 youngsters beside the vice president looked extremely handsome with delicate features, red lips and white teeth. The young man in the moon-white robe was like a charming evildoer. This term, used on a man, was considered as an insult. But Yiqing Luo really couldn't think of any adjectives to describe that young man. This kind of charming evildoer aura, when placed on the young man, didn't have the slightest bit of femininity, on the contrary. It made him even more evildoer. Whereas that black-robed young man had a calm and cool temperament. It seemed that he didn't care about anything around him. His eyes couldn't accommodate anyone or anything. These 2 youngsters, no matter how she looked, were the sons of aristocratic families. He was completely different from the legendary ghost martial artist, who was renowned throughout the world. Yiqing Luo felt that the extremely dignified, immortal-like persona that she had imagined had already collapsed. Similarly, the students from the other major academies, as well as the accompanying instructors, elders, masters, and so on were also shocked. No one could believe that these 2 youngsters who seemed to be around the same age as these students would actually be Ghost Martial. You must be joking. This is the famous Ghost Martial Grandmaster. The vice president's expression was calm, as if he was already used to the questioning gazes of the crowd. Initially, when he saw Ghost Martial, he himself had the same thought. Immediately he stood up and walked to the side of that black-robed young man and introduced him. This black-robed young man was Ghost Martial. He was expressionless, his brows were tightly knitted, showing a trace of impatience. Hearing the vice president's introduction, his expression became increasingly cold. It was until the white-robed young man beside him tugged at his sleeve that Ghost Martial impatiently moved his lips. I am Ghost Martial. 4 simple words, but they were extremely oppressive. It also made the students from the major academies dumbstruck. This voice didn't sound like an ordinary young man's voice. But it was extremely deep, at least 25 years old and above of a man's voice. It had long been heard that cultivating the profound grade could prolong one's lifespan, and even maintain one's youth forever. Many women had painstakingly cultivated the profound rank precisely because they wanted to maintain their youth forever. And once one reached the profound grade of the Sky Mystic Overlord and above, one could choose to retain one's looks. There was a very high possibility that this Gue Wu was a Sky Xian sovereign. The reason why he looked so young must be because he used the profound rank to preserve his youthful appearance. With that in mind, the students could finally accept it in their hearts. Yiqing Luo narrowed her charming eyes as she carefully gazed at Gue Wu's chest. Sky Profound Supreme Martial Artist, Eternal Youth. This ghost martial artist's profound rank was actually so high. She activated the power of her profound heart jade, narrowing her charming eyes, she carefully searched Gue Wu's profound heart jade. However, before her spiritual power could penetrate it, Lin Mingya's eyes widened. All of a sudden, a barrier blocked her psychic energy. Immediately after, a sharp gaze followed the direction of the mental energy and flew straight towards him. This was the first time that Yiqing Luo had failed in probing the other party's profound heart jade. Not only did she fail, but she even allowed the other party to notice her probing. Yiqing Luo panicked momentarily as she hurriedly withdrew her mental power, avoiding her vision. Gue Wu's expression congealed, a pair of sharp and gloomy eyes stared unblinkingly at Yiqing Luo. Slowly, he furrowed his brows. Yiqing Luo was standing in the first row. Gue Wu's gaze, completely without any obstruction, pierced Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo only felt a chill run down her spine, her heart was incomparably apprehensive. Just at this moment, a tall figure blocked in front of Yiqing Luo. She raised her eyes and saw Instructor Chu's back, blocking Gue Wu's vision for her. Chapter 14:10. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly felt warm. Instructor Chu had sensed her panic and uneasiness. This kind of protective action made Yiqing Luo feel extremely warm. Gue Wu's gaze was not concealed at all. He was totally staring at Yiqing Luo. The other academies also looked over. When they realized Gue Wu's gaze had been fixed on Yiqing Luo, those academies' people were about to go crazy. This Gue Wu, could it be that he had also set his eyes on devil class? What kind of poison was in this devil class? Each and every one of them seemed to be possessed. Their eyes were staring straight at devil class. And, that's right, this is Gue Wu who is here to train you. Don't call him master, just call him Ah Wu will do. The white-robed young man put his hand on Gue Wu's shoulder, smiling to smooth things over. Following that, he revealed a devilish smile, like a blooming poppy, exuding a devilish temptation. This young master, Ma Wu's assistant. Zhou Mo, and also your training instructor. The female students' gazes were instantly attracted by Zhou Mo's smile. That face was absolutely the most devilish face they had ever seen. Different from the overlord's elegant, peerless temperament. Different from Long Yun Zhan's unattainable, iceberg grass temperament. Different from the devil class's handsome, extremely pleasing temperament. This was a kind of, she was like a fox, able to make people sink into her charm with a single glance. She had the ability to seduce people to the point where they were unable to extricate themselves. Over there are also your training instructors, Instructor Ren, Instructor Luo, Instructor Li, Instructor Fang. For the next 7 days, all of you must listen to Ah Wu and the 5 of us training instructors. Do you hear me? The question still had a frivolous tone. However, every single word of his exuded an irresistible pressure. The students seemed to subconsciously, in unison, yes, we hear you. After finishing this sentence, those students were completely stunned. Those students who were able to participate in the exchange were all the elite students of each academy. Naturally, they understood. They listened to Zhou Mo's words, completely because they were awed by Zhou Mo's terrifying aura. There was no resistance at all. Obviously. He looked so amiable, demonic. At this moment, the students finally understood. Under the mask of evil charm and friendliness, this person was truly terrifying. Master Gue Wu, I'll leave these students to you. The vice president of the general hospital said with a smile, the president still needs my help, so I'll go over first. Zhou Mo waved his hand at the vice president. Vice president, take care. Don't worry, Ah Wu will train these students well. In 7 days, I guarantee that you will see a group of students who have been reborn. The vice president of the general hospital smiled and nodded. After the vice principal left, the students' hearts grew heavier and tenser. That majestic aura just now had already intimidated many students. Gue Wu was also not a person who liked to waste time talking nonsense. He looked at the students around him with a cold gaze and said coldly, "It's the first day of training, so I won't make things difficult for you. All of you, run 10 laps around this training ground one by one, then go to the other 4 instructors and test your strength." As soon as the order came down, many students wailed incessantly. This training ground could accommodate at least 3,000 or 4,000 people. If they were to run 10 laps around this place, they estimated that they might not even be able to finish it before midnight, which was 2 or 3 in the afternoon. How could this be called not making things difficult for them? Chapter 14:11. 10 laps. Many of the students, instructors and elders had a change of expression. Even Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu could not help but change their expressions. Every time Heavenly Academy new students entered the academy, the first thing they trained them to do was to run laps. But they would absolutely not let these students run so many laps in one go. Even if it was them, they might not be able to persevere in completing the 10 laps of the training grounds. The instructors' gazes all looked towards Yiqing Luo. Zi Qianqian and the rest, Devil Class and the others, all looked towards Yiqing Luo. 10 laps, this number, was not unfamiliar to Devil Class's students. In their past training, Yiqing Luo placed special emphasis on their physical fitness training. Almost hand in hand, training them from head to toe. This training ground, if they had to run 10 laps, that wasn't a difficult problem. But after finishing, they still had to go through the other 4 instructors' ability test. Devil Class's students had also been influenced by Instructor Zomo earlier, so they knew that these instructors' ability was absolutely powerful. To test their ability in the hands of those instructors? I'm afraid it would be very difficult. But Devil Class's students saw that Yiqing Luo's expression, there was no change at all, calm and indifferent. Her gaze was calm, quietly looking at Gue Wu and Zomo. Towards Gue Wu's request, she had no intention to resist. Devil Class's students' hearts gradually quietened down. Looking at Long Yunzhan, he was expressionless, without any emotion. Their hearts had completely calmed down. Their backbone was not afraid. What else were they afraid of? No matter if they could gain the approval of Gue Wu and these instructors. They only needed to put in all their effort, that would be enough. Devil Class's students' gazes gradually became firm. Begin. Gue Wu ignored those students' wailing voices, as he gave the order. Yiqing Luo was the first, as she started running along the periphery of the training ground, with a standard posture. Devil Class's students followed closely behind. Damn! They really ran. 10 laps, it's killing. What are you running for? Let's collectively discuss the conditions with Master Gue Wu. At least reduce those few laps. A bunch of idiots, waste class is waste class, I thought they were really capable. The students from other academies gritted their teeth in resentment. But the Devil Class's students had already started running. Their instructors and elders also urged the students to run. Helpless, he could only grit his teeth and force himself to run. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps, 4 laps. By the 5th lap, it was obvious that the other students were starting to sway and were exhausted. At this time, the Devil Class was already halfway through the 6th round. When the students finished the 6th round, there were already a small number of students who couldn't take it anymore and fell to the ground. One had to know, they had been running from the hour of the morning, which was about 9 o'clock in the morning, until noon. It had been a full 4 hours. It was already lunchtime. However, Gue Wu had already given the order. Those who didn't finish the race couldn't even eat. This caused the students of the various academies to complain incessantly. Early in the morning, he was called to the training ground before he even had his breakfast. After another 4 hours of non-stop running, he had exhausted all his strength. When the students finished their 7th round, most of them were exhausted and collapsed on the ground. As for the Devil Class's students, they were already halfway through the 9th round. They only needed to run for another 1 or 2 incense sticks of time and they would be able to complete the 10th round. Chapter 14:12. The attention of Gue Wu and the few drill instructors were also attracted by the Devil Class. They were extremely curious about the devil class. This devil class. They were completely like well-trained soldiers. Their running pace was the same, neat and tidy, even their breathing was extremely stable. It gave people a feeling. These people were running in front of a mirror. This tacit understanding. This running posture. Too proper. It was too unbelievable. The few drill instructors continued to conclude that the students of Devil class had definitely gone through extremely strict training and they had the habit of running every day. The other students in the Heavenly Academy were lagging behind by more than just a little bit. Even Enchanting, who was originally refreshed and had the bearing of a celestial being, was now running elegantly and beautifully. Towards the end, it became more and more strenuous. After all, they had walked for a full 6 days and only rested for one night. This was only the second day. They had already started such a strenuous training. How could they possibly keep up? But didn't the students of Devil class also walk together with them for 6 days? They could still run so easily now. The other students in the Heavenly Academy were filled with jealousy and resentment. They all thought that the students of Devil class were trying to show off their strength and to show off in front of the other academies. That was why they mustered up all their energy to snatch the first place in the running circle. After 10 laps, the students of Devil class steadily stopped at the finishing point. The students at the back were mostly still slowly moving around the 7th lap. There were even some students who were moving around the 5th and 6th lap. Just behind Devil class were Enchanting and Wei Beilai, as well as a few other students from other academies, who were already at the 8th lap. Dismissed. A clear and crisp voice rang out in the neat ranks of Devil class. The Devil class's students then retracted their upright and respectful demeanor. One by one, they dispersed and stood around the training grounds, giving the training grounds to the students who were still running. Gue Wu and Zhou Mo, who were standing not too far away, looked at the situation of the Devil class, their lips curled into a smile. This Devil class is indeed interesting. This time they agreed to deal with the old man from the general courtyard. Gue Wu furrowed his brows, and said in an impatient tone, "It's obvious that you've taken a fancy to that female student from the Devil class, and you insist on dragging me along to waste time." Zhou Mo raised his eyebrows. "That's where you're wrong. Although student Yiqing Luo's looks are not bad and also suits my taste, but she's not a woman that I can touch." Yo! Gue Wu's interest was piqued. "There's actually a woman that our young master Zhou Mo doesn't dare to touch. She's Di Zun's woman." Zhou Mo rubbed his chin and narrowed his eyes. This young master doesn't have the ability to go against the Emperor Palace. Sovereign's woman. A sliver of astonishment flashed past Gue Wu's eyes as he narrowed his eyes to size up Yiqing Luo. "She is indeed different from ordinary people. You noticed it too." Zhou Mo's thin lips curled into a smile. "Looks like Ah Wu has also been attracted by student Yiqing Luo's charm." Gue Wu shot a cold glance at Zhou Mo. Zhou Mo couldn't help but rub his nose. "I was just joking. Don't take it seriously." Chapter 14-13. Zhou Mo's eyes widened in astonishment. "She's searching for your profound jade heart. This lady, she's really daring. She almost succeeded." Gue Wu's voice turned gloomier. "Her profound jade heart's grade is probably not low. It's rare to hear you praise someone." Zhou Mo patted Gue Wu's shoulder in amazement as he laughed. "Little master feels that it's a wise choice to forcefully drag you to agree to that old man's request." Gue Wu rolled his eyes at him. Towards this brother with a hole in his brain, Gue Wu didn't want to ridicule him anymore. Yiqing Luo stood and rested for the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. They didn't find a place to rest or wipe off their perspiration. Instead, they looked as though nothing had happened as they stood by the side watching the other students moving like snails. They even whispered to each other from time to time, talking about the students' wrong way of running. They didn't look like people who continuously ran for more than 6 hours. Even those instructors were stunned. One of the instructors, Instructor Luo, couldn't hold it in any longer. He walked over to Devil Class's side and roughly confirmed that the leader of these students was Yiqing Luo. He stood by Yiqing Luo's side and asked in a low voice, "This student, your class, has it undergone special physical training?" Instructor Luo. Yiqing Luo immediately greeted him respectfully, nodded her head and smiled politely. "The Heavenly Academy has a special physical fitness training program. Master Gue Yu and Master Mo also emphasized on maintaining physical fitness training every day." She didn't intentionally deny it. Instead, she directly brought out Gue Yu and Master Supreme Mo. Only the insiders in Heavenly Academy knew of Gue Yu's name. Instructor Luo treated him as a teacher in Heavenly Academy. But Master Supreme Mo's status in the headquarters was rather high. As a teacher in the headquarters, the headquarter had a record of him heading to Heavenly Academy for an inspection. Hence, when Instructor Luo heard that Supreme Mo had also taught the Devil class before, he naturally attributed the credit of the Devil class being able to run 10 laps without any pressure to Supreme Mo. All the way till it was close to 5 p.m., which was 3 in the afternoon. Those students who had not been carried down had finally completed the 10 laps. After running, the students couldn't even lift their legs. After 10 laps, at least 200 students were carried off the training ground. On the training ground, more than 2,000 students were lying on the ground. They were so hungry that their chests were sticking to their backs, and they were grumbling non-stop. However, it didn't mean that those who finished first could eat first. Instead, he had to wait for everyone to finish running before all the students went to the cafeteria to eat together. In the words of the training instructor, it was, "When we train here, we are not students of the various academies, but a group, a collective. No matter what you do or what training you do, you must be prepared as a team." Yes. Community. They were trained under the hands of the Ghost Warriors. He would have to forget his identity as an academy student. If you want to eat early, you want to leave early. In that case, he would urge the students who had yet to complete their tasks to complete them as soon as possible. Otherwise, the entire group would starve together. After running, Gue Wu looked at the incense burner beside him. Chapter 14:14. They're all still students and can be trained slowly. Don't put on a long face and scare these kids. Zhou Mo smiled as he tried to smooth things over. His demonic phoenix eyes swept across the training grounds and the students who had collapsed into a pile. He grinned and said, "You guys must be hungry too. The canteen is in front and turn left. It's 500 meters away. Let's go eat." Hearing the youth who looked to be around the same age as them calling them kids, the students felt as if thunder was rolling in their hearts. But at this moment, the students didn't have the mood to complain about this thunder. Hearing that they could eat, their eyes all lit up. Almost all of the students hadn't eaten anything since morning. Even if their bodies were tired. Even if they didn't have the strength to stand up. But they still forced their sore limbs to support each other as they stood up and wanted to rush towards the canteen. Soon after, on the high platform, Zhou Mo, who was still grinning evilly, said, "You only have 1 hour to eat. If you exceed the time, you will be like those students who were carried off the track just now. Eliminated from this round of training." The last 2 words, Zhou Mo purposely paused and said it slowly. Smiling lightly, evildoer unparalleled. But the words that came out made everyone's faces pale. Like those students who were carried off. Eliminated. Which meant, the 10 laps of training just now was actually a test training. All the students secretly broke out in cold sweat. They were all glad that they didn't pretend to be weak and fainted because of the influence of those students who were carried off. There were also some students who started to sneer. Those students who pretended to faint and were carried off were still gloating, thinking that their little tricks had allowed them to escape this round of training. But they didn't know that they had long been eliminated from this round of training. This also meant that the eliminated students had brought shame to the school that they represented. Which also meant that the eliminated students had to stop in this round of the school's exchange meet. Everyone was still secretly rejoicing in their hearts. In the next instant, a whirlwind was seen flying in the direction of the left turn. Following closely behind, many figures followed, maintaining the same speed and the same movement. The students of Devil class all ran towards the canteen. The students who were still in a daze immediately came back to their senses. They all focused their attention on the students who were carried off the stage and eliminated. However, he had ignored Gue Wu's previous sentence. They only had an hour to eat. In other words, half an hour later, the ghost martial artists still wanted to test and train them. They thought that they could rest after running. Didn't you say that you wouldn't make things difficult for them? These instructors are all liars. Oh. The students were crying in their hearts. However, in order to stay, he could only listen to Gue Wu's orders. After the students of Devil class rushed to the canteen, they quickly ordered porridge and steamed buns, etc. Each of them had a bowl of plain porridge, 2 steamed buns, and some side dishes. As for the other students, although they were hungry and tired, after running for a full 6 hours, they were already exhausted. Moreover, all of them were young masters and young ladies. The food in the cafeteria was so bland. It was so bland that, even the servants and their family ate better than these things. He immediately lost his appetite. Chapter 14-15. It was just a joss stick worth of time. In the originally bustling cafeteria, there were only 100 or so tables of students left in silence. 2,000 over students, the remaining 500 to 600 students. Eat slowly, it's still early, don't rush. Yiqing Luo's cold voice entered Devil class's students' eardrums. She didn't say a word and used the World Mercenary Group's badge to transmit her voice. Devil class's students, ever since they didn't need to be secretive, they hung the World Group's badge on their bodies. This was beneficial for them to contact each other in time. Yen Xiaoyi stuffed a mouthful of steamed bun. 1 hour later, we still need to continue training. Can those students take it? Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Whether they can take it or not will depend on their own willpower. But Gue Wu's training method feels as though he is intentionally forcing us students to give up on this training. Ever since she met Gue Wu, Yiqing Luo had been using this feeling. Gue Wu actually didn't want to train them. But the self-proclaimed assistant of Gue Wu was the instructor beside him, Zhou Mo, who was leading all the training. Thinking of that Zhou Mo, Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. Gue Wu and Zhou Mo's profound grades are unfathomable, I can't detect it. The other 4 instructors' profound grades are all around Earth profound 5th grade. Pausing for a moment, she continued, that's right, be careful of Zhou Mo. He isn't as easy to get along with as he looks. On the contrary, Gue Wu shows everything on his face, so it's easier to understand Gue Wu's thoughts. Devil class's students agreed with her. That Zhou Mo's aura was simply too strong. It was comparable to their Madame Qing Luo's aura when she was angry. The next training should be one-on-one hand-to-hand combat with those drill instructors without the use of profound qi. Yiqing Luo reminded them, Gue Wu is known as the martial fanatic, so the people he brought along are definitely experts in physical combat. Don't force yourself, just try your best. Devil class's students nodded their heads. Earlier Gue Wu had mentioned this. After running 10 rounds, they would be going to the other 4 instructors to test their abilities. According to Gue Wu's character, it would definitely be physical combat. Just at this moment, a weak voice was heard from the badge. That, I heard your conversation, is it all right? Devil class's students were stunned. This voice was somewhat familiar. Han Shang. Yi-Ching Luo inquired softly. A reply came from the other side. Qing Luo, it's me. The owner of this voice was Mo Han Shang. The young master of the mercenary guild had also joined the World Mercenary Group. The mercenary group badge could only transmit messages within 100 meters. Mo Han Shang was able to hear their words and was also able to communicate with them. In other words, Mo Han Shang was also in the canteen. The other students of the devil class reacted and quickly turned their gazes to the surroundings of the canteen. Indeed, at a table in the corner of the canteen, he saw Mo Han Shang. Mo Han Shang was dressed in a white-colored academy uniform. He looked at the school uniform and saw the logo of Nantao Academy. Yi-Ching Luo suddenly felt that the world was really small. She had just had a conflict with the headmaster of Nantao Academy yesterday. Unexpectedly, Mo Han Shang was actually a student of Nantao Academy. The headmaster of Nantao and the Heavenly Academy had been fighting for more than 10 years. After last night, Dean Nantao probably hated their devil class to the core. Mo Han Shang was a student of Nantao Academy. Chapter 14-16. Cough cough. Mo Han Shang was also rather embarrassed. He coughed dryly a few times as his delicate face surfaced a thin shade of red. He raised his eyes towards Yi-Ching Luo. Qing Luo. The three Nantao Academy students who were seated at the same table as Mo Han Shang, all looked at Mo Han Shang in astonishment. As though they hadn't expected this. Mo Han Shang actually knew Heavenly Academy's students. Furthermore, they knew devil class's students. Why hadn't Mo Han Shang mentioned this before? First Academy and Second Academy were born to be arch-enemies. The Academy's teachers fought openly and secretly, never getting in touch with each other. Whereas Nantao Academy's students who were often compared to Heavenly Academy's students were belittled every single time. This led to Nantao Academy's students not liking Heavenly Academy's students. Yi-Ching Luo could tell the enmity in those three Nantao Academy students' eyes. Her brows rose as her pink lips curled into a smile. Han Shang, I didn't expect you to be Nantao Academy's student. Mo Han Shang was a little uneasy as he lowered his eyelids. His curly long lashes covered that pair of delicate and beautiful eyes. I didn't mean to hide it. The disputes between the academies is the academy's matter. Our friendship is our matter. Yi-Ching Luo interrupted his self-reproach as her slender hand placed on Mo Han Shang's shoulder as she smiled elegantly. No matter if you're Nantao Academy student or any other academy student, it doesn't change the fact that we had once experienced life and death together. When she placed her hand on Mo Han Shang's shoulder, Yi-Ching Luo then realized in shock that his shoulder was extremely slender. Even more slender than her shoulder. The meaning in Yi-Ching Luo's words was referring to the fact that they had once done a complicated grade mission together, experiencing life and death together. But in the years of the other Nantao Academy students, it had become another meaning. The gazes they shot towards Mo Han Shang and Yi-Ching Luo were filled with ambiguity. Mo Han Shang's face turned redder as he clenched his fists in anger and stared at those few students. Don't misunderstand. Qing Luo already has a fated one, don't use this kind of gaze on me, I don't want to be beheaded. If the Overlord were to find out that his relationship with Qing Luo was so ambiguous. Based on the Overlord's possessiveness towards Qing Luo, he would definitely tear him apart with his own hands. Those few students were apparently on rather good terms with Mo Han Shang. That gaze was still ambiguous, as he grinned evilly as he glanced at him and Yi-Ching Luo. Although this playful smile made Mo Han Shang even more embarrassed. But at least, the atmosphere had eased up. Yiqing Luo interrupted their teasing in a timely manner as she smiled. You'd better hurry up and eat your fill, so that there's 1 incense worth of time left for digestion. 1 hour later, there will be a huge battle. Nantao Academy's 3 students' ambiguous smiles froze as they looked at Yiqing Luo warily. As though he didn't believe that Yiqing Luo, as the student representative of the Heavenly Academy, would say something about the enemy's school. Yiqing Luo didn't bother whether those students believed her or not. She said these words purely because of Mo Han Shang's face. If they didn't believe her, there was nothing she could do. Look for me if there's anything. Do your best for these 7 days of training. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes hooked slightly, drawing out a long and narrow arc. Mo Han Shang nodded his head, as he suppressed his voice and said, I will do my best. And about the matter earlier, you really don't mind me telling those classmates of mine about it? Your friends are our friends. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she smiled lightly as she rubbed Mo Han Shang's shoulder. All right, fill your tummies first, don't waste any more time. Saying that, she, Long Yunjian and the others returned to their own table. Before they left, she didn't forget to remind them, for this training, no matter what instructions the instructors give, it's best to complete it unconditionally in the shortest time possible, otherwise the consequences will not just be being eliminated. Those 3 Nantao Academy's students looked at each other in dismay, as though they were trying to figure out the degree of credibility in Yiqing Luo's words. But, not waiting for them to raise their doubts, Yiqing Luo and the others had already returned to their table, as they continued to eat. Chapter 14-17. Indeed, as Yiqing Luo had expected. 1 hour later, Gue Wu directly led each school's students and those 4 instructors to fight hand-to-hand. Because of the large number of students, Gue Wu directly went from one school to another and all the students collectively launched an attack against the instructors, fighting hand-to-hand. The rules of this strength training were very simple. Under the premise of not releasing profound qi and using unorthodox methods, just relying on hand-to-hand skills to defeat an instructor, it would be considered as the school's victory. After hearing these rules, those school's students were all stunned. Their gazes towards those 4 instructors were filled with fiery gazes. One must know that each school had at least 100 over to 300 students. 1 to 200 students, ganging up on 4 instructors? There was no need for any skills at all. They could just ganging up and beat them to death. As compared to the other school's students' excitement, Devil class's students quietly creased their brows. This kind of training method was the same as Yiqing Luo, Gue Yu and Supreme Mo's master Mo Xian. Ganging up on the instructors. It wasn't that simple at all. But Devil class's students didn't feel afraid because of this. On the contrary, the battle intent in their hearts was burning extremely vigorously. Gue Wu and Zhou Mo's prowess, they had already witnessed it. The instructors brought by Gue Wu and Zhou Mo would definitely have extraordinary skills. To be able to fight hand-to-hand with these people, it would definitely allow them to learn a lot of fighting skills. Devil class's students were thinking in this way with a learning attitude. But the other students only felt that they should quickly surround these 4 instructors and return to their own dormitories to rest. Does everyone understand? Gue Wu's steady voice, no matter how one listened, and that immature young man's face, had an extremely strong sense of incompatibility. Then, the first group to challenge the school. Me, let's do it. A third-tier school's representative hurriedly interrupted Gue Wu's words. Gue Wu frowned as a sliver of displeasure appeared in his eyes. Zhou Mo pressed Gue Wu's arm as he gave a devilish smile and said cheerfully, all right, then let your school be the vanguard. Saying that, his gaze shot towards the main school's elder not far away, then I'll have to trouble the elder to be the judge. All the school's students stood in a line around the training ground. He emptied the space in the middle for the students of the academy to fight with the 4 instructors. The 4 instructors all looked muscular and extremely sturdy. As they stood in the center of the arena, they exuded a powerful aura. The representatives of the third-tier academies were stunned by his aura. Swallowing hard, he encouraged himself and called for his classmates to come forward. This time, there were about 200 students from the third-tier academies. When he stood on the training ground, it was immediately densely packed. The 4 instructors were nowhere to be seen. 200 students against 4 instructors, there was no suspense in the outcome. The other students were also looking forward to this match. It would be best if they could defeat the 4 instructors. After that, they could return to their dorms and have a good rest. Duel, start. With a command, the 200 students swarmed toward the direction of the instructor. Everyone was already mentally prepared for the battle to end in an instant. At this moment, something that left them dumbfounded happened. Pay attention, all of you, look carefully. Yiqing Luo spoke in a deep voice from the mercenary group badge. Devil classes students immediately congealed as their eyes were fixated on the movements in the arena. Chapter 14:18. One after another, figures flew out horizontally. Like a fairy scattering flowers, they flew out in all directions. Ah! Help! Oh my mother! Cries of agony resounded throughout the entire training grounds. Obviously, those who flew out horizontally were not the instructors. That was 200 over students from third-tier academies. But in an instant, there were only 4 instructors left on the training grounds. The instructors were dressed neatly, standing ramrod straight. There wasn't any disheveled or messy look. As though the people who were beaten up earlier weren't the 4 of them. Looking at those 200 over students, they were all sent flying, landing outside the crowd, lying on the ground, writhing in pain. Yiqing Luo's eyes squinted slightly. Indeed, these 4 instructors were extraordinary. Earlier the 4 instructors' actions, did you see clearly? Yiqing Luo asked calmly. Within the mercenary group badge, there was a dead silence. Being surrounded by 200 students, the instructors' figures had already been covered. Devil classes students' vision was also obstructed. No one saw clearly what did the instructors do, which resulted in such a short period of time, to send 200 students flying. In the world's martial arts, only speed is unbeatable. Yiqing Luo didn't blame them. Under that kind of situation, it was indeed difficult to see the instructor's actions. Even she could only faintly sense the frequency and fluctuation of their actions. She continued, these 4 instructors' movements are very fast. If you meet them later, remember not to let them get close to you, otherwise your outcome will be the same as those students. The expressions on Devil classes students were getting more and more excited. All of them were rubbing their palms, eager to give it a try. Yan Xiaoyi hooked Kitty Li's shoulder, holding her forehead as she sighed. A bunch of youngsters, after staying under Yiqing Luo's hands for a few months, all of them had now become little perverts. The more challenging the things, the more interested they were. These words, Yiqing Luo didn't avoid Mo Hanshang. 4 instructors, in just an instant, sent 200 students flying onto the ground. This kind of battle power made those students who originally had the attitude of watching a show instantly tensed up. They couldn't believe their own eyes. Under the situation where they didn't use profound qi, it was just a hand-to-hand fight, he was actually able to send the students flying so quickly, and it didn't even affect him at all. Who's going to the next academy? Gue Wu narrowed his eyes, and swept his gaze over those students in disdain. Seeing the fear and dread in their eyes, the disdain and mockery in their eyes intensified. The remaining dozens of academies were silent at this moment. That scene just now shocked them so much that they still had no way to recover from their shock. After a moment of silence, he realized that the entire place had fallen into a deathly silence. Almost at the same time, the students of those academies looked towards the direction of the Heavenly Academy. The Heavenly Academy was the top academy. Under such circumstances, it should be the first academy's turn. With this in mind, those students used the excuse of the best academy, the first academy, and so on to urge the Heavenly Academy's students and instructors for actual combat training and testing. He listened to the urging words around him. Zi Qianqian's face turned slightly pale. She did not have the time to understand the fighting style of the four instructors. Chapter 14:19. If she were to go on stage, she would definitely lose all her face. Zi Qianqian didn't want the number one beauty that she had painstakingly created, the identity of the genius fairy, to be destroyed in a day. The surrounding students were still urging him to hurry up. She squeezed out a cold smile and tried hard to put on a superior look. Her mind was pondering how to avoid going on stage now. But she heard a deep voice coming from not far away. The Heavenly Academy's people have no guts, my Nantao Academy is not afraid. That was the elder of Nantao Academy. At this moment, with a face full of fear, he blew his beard and stared. Students of Nantao Academy, stand out. The students of Nantao Academy looked pale. But since the elder had spoken, they could only bite the bullet and stand out. The students of Nantao Academy, perhaps had already inquired about the news of the Heavenly Academy. The number of people was comparable to the Heavenly Academy. About 150 students. Bring out your usual performance and have a good duel with the four instructors, so that the instructors can understand your strength, so that they can train you in a more accurate way. The elder said while blowing his beard and staring at the Heavenly Academy provocatively. If it was Elder Yunxiang who followed the Heavenly Academy today, he would probably have been provoked and forcefully compete with the Nantao Academy. However, it was Instructor Chu and Instructor He who followed the group today. They had always been cold and aloof, and had no heart to compare. They didn't care about the provocation of the Nantao Academy at all. The elder of Nantao Academy provoked for a long time, but did not see any response from the Heavenly Academy. His face darkened and became extremely ugly. But the arrow was already on the bowstring, it had to be released. The elder exhorted a few words and retreated into the crowd. The students of Nantao Academy had no choice but to accept the challenge. After respectfully saluting the four instructors, the students of Nantao Academy took the lead to launch an attack. The students of the second academy were indeed stronger than the third-tier academies by more than a little. The students' cooperation was also not bad. After a portion of the students were sent flying, Mo Han Shang quickly mobilized the students to change their tactics and entangled with the instructors. Perhaps it was because he saw that these students were more or less eye-catching. The instructors were not in a hurry to defeat them, but set after set of fist and palm techniques, constantly breaking the attacks of the other students. The students of the devil class finally saw the trajectory of the instructors' moves this time. Yi Qing Luo. Zi Qianqian's voice suddenly sounded from the side. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and glanced sideways, only to see Zi Qianqian's gloomy expression. Zi Qianqian lowered his voice and said, "Right now, we are all doing this for the honor of the academy. Don't embarrass us because of your own selfish desires. I should be the one saying that to you." Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched in ridicule. "Student Zi Qianqian, you'd better control your own jealousy. This is the academy's honor, don't because of your own selfish desires, 'cause yourself, to lose face." Yi Qing Luo's tone was filled with contempt, extremely sarcastic. Her long and narrow eyes also revealed a trace of mockery. Zi Qianqian's face instantly darkened. Her exquisite and beautiful face looked a bit ferocious. She bit her lips. Yi Qing. Fall. Was she jealous? Yi Qing Luo was merely a waste, And she was the goddess that everyone chased after. Was there a need to be jealous of that slut Yiqing Luo? What selfish desire? What did he mean by embarrassing herself? Chapter 1420. Ah, Bam Bam, just as Zi Qianqian was about to retaliate, suddenly a miserable shriek was heard. Zi Qianqian stopped his voice and immediately looked towards the training grounds. Nan Tao Academy's students, under the hands of the 4 instructors, persisted for about half an incense's time. Finally they were sent flying out of the crowd. If it was said. For the first time, 3rd-tier Academy students were all sent flying. It was possible that the students were too conceited and didn't treat this actual combat assessment seriously, giving the 4 instructors this chance. Then this time. Nan Tao Academy was the 2nd academy. Nan Tao Academy's students were not any worse off than Heavenly Academy's students. But they only persisted for half an incense's time in the hands of the instructors. Heavens! Weren't these 4 instructors too heaven-defying? All the students had the same thought in their minds. They had close to 2,000 over students, ganging up on them. They might be sent flying all over the ground. Qing Luo. From within the metal, Mo Han Shang's voice was heard with a tinge of pain. These 4 instructors' skills are very fast and just like what you predicted, the minute they get close to you, there's no way to resist at all and you'll be struck flying and eliminated. Yiqing Luo touched her chin and muttered to herself for a moment. Which of their instructors did you cross hands with? 4. Mo Han Shang replied. The 4 instructors took turns to cross hands once. Their speed and strength are all very strong and after being touched by them, you couldn't muster up any strength, so there's no way to avoid their attacks. They're really hard to deal with. Yiqing Luo muttered softly. With Mo Han Shang's words, the other devil classes students all went into deep thoughts. They followed Mo Han Shang's words and after seeing the instructors stretching out their hands, their brains started to think of ways to restrain the instructors. Gue Wu looked at Nan Tao Academy's students and the unhappy expression on his face became more and more obvious. In his eyes, they couldn't even defeat these instructors. These students were all trash. Especially when he saw the obvious fear in those students' eyes, and how they didn't dare to go up to battle. His heart was getting more and more frustrated. These trash, what did they usually learn in the academy? Just with this kind of aptitude, they dared to be called elite students. When the main elder asked who wanted to challenge the 3rd academy, the entire crowd once again fell into a dead silence. The students pushed and shoved each other, none of them willing to step forward. The annoyance and disdain in Gue Wu's heart was already unbearable. He abruptly slammed the table, and his disdainful gaze swept across the students. A bunch of trash. Why should I waste my time for trash like you? What bullsh** T training? I don't have the time for that. The expressions on the students' faces became extremely embarrassed. Those who were thin-skinned blushed and their eyes reddened. Ah Wu, you. Wrinkling his brows, Zhou Mo was just about to open his mouth to appease Gue Wu's emotions. However, Gue Wu was unable to restrain his anger as he berated, Enough. It's all because you were so bored that you had to drag me along and waste my time on this group of trash. No matter how much they train, this group of trash is still trash. His words were merciless, causing the faces of the students present to turn red. He wanted to retort, but he didn't know how. His opponent was the Ghost Martial Grandmaster. He was the famous Ghost Martial Master. The entire Nirvana realm knew about his ability. In his eyes, they were indeed trash. But, when Gue Wu said that they were trash in front of everyone, all the students' self-esteem seemed to have been ruthlessly trampled on the ground. Chapter 1421. Waste. This was a term that most of the students were unwilling to bear. Especially Nantao Academy students, they were so ashamed that they didn't dare to cry out in pain. One by one, the young faces were twisted as they endured the pain. There were 100 and 200 of them, but they couldn't defeat 4 instructors. They were ashamed too. So ashamed that they couldn't show their faces. Especially when they heard Gue Wu's reprimand, they felt that this was all because of them. They were the students of the second academy. But in the hands of the instructors, they couldn't last more than half an incense. Their ears kept ringing with Gue Wu's words. Their hearts gradually sunk. As if there was a huge rock pressuring their hearts. The training grounds. It was silent. No one dared to speak. No one dared to refute Gue Wu's words. Such a reaction caused Gue Wu to feel increasingly vexed in his heart. His gloomy cold gaze swept past those students below and finally landed on Yiqing Luo. Following that, he shook off Zhou Mo's hand, turned around and prepared to leave. Zhou Mo's handsome brows knitted tightly, as he quickly chased up, trying to pull Gue Wu back. Gue Wu's footsteps became faster. Master Gue Wu, wait a minute. Just at this moment, a clear voice, in this silent atmosphere, was extremely loud. Following that, he saw a stunning young lady dressed in green and white uniform, slowly walking out from the crowd. Yiqing Luo. Zi Qianqian bellowed, as he wanted to pull Yiqing Luo back. But helplessly, Yiqing Luo had already walked far away. Zi Qianqian could only withdraw his hand, as he furiously clenched his fists. Gue Wu's footsteps halted. He turned back, as his eyes met with Zhou Mo's. Then at the same time, he looked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's footsteps were light, her posture elegant, not hurried nor slow. She wasn't walking towards Gue Wu and Zhou Mo. Instead, she was walking towards the crowd, towards the direction of Nantao Academy students who were sent flying. The surroundings were completely silent. Only the sound of Yiqing Luo's slow footsteps could be heard. And the originally furious, disdainful and mocking Gue Wu stood rooted to the ground, not blaming Yiqing Luo for being unreasonable. Yiqing Luo walked to Mo Hanshang's side, as she bent down and helped him up. Where does it hurt? Mo Hanshang was stunned by Yiqing Luo's actions. He was startled for a moment before he came back to his senses. He shook his head in panic and said, I'm fine, you, instructors control their strength and skills very well, it's just some superficial injuries. Rest for tonight and it should be fine by tomorrow. Yiqing Luo minded her own business as she checked on Mo Hanshang's injuries. When Yiqing Luo's hand touched his body, Mo Hanshang's expression tightened as he frantically pushed Yiqing Luo away and retreated a few steps. I'm really fine. Yiqing Luo's hand froze in midair. She squinted her eyes, as she glanced at Mo Hanshang's chest with interest, and immediately shifted her line of sight, as she calmly retracted her hand. She turned around and looked at the 2 youths on the main stage who were looking at her. I have a few points that I would like to refute Master Gue Wu's words. Yiqing Luo's voice was elegant, with a faint hint of a smile. The rippling splendor in her enchanting eyes was like a blooming rose. The students of the various academies all gasped in shock. This Yiqing Luo, what on earth was she trying to do? She actually dared to refute Master Gue Wu's words. Did she really think that she was a famous figure, and wanted to challenge Master Gue Wu? Chapter 1422. Just as the students were waiting for Gue Wu to be infuriated and teach Yiqing Luo a lesson. But they heard Gue Wu's icy cold voice, why don't you tell me, what did I say wrong? Firstly, these students are not trash. Gue Wu Master's words are simply too hurtful to these students' pride. Yiqing Luo didn't beat around the bush as she spoke in an extremely calm tone. Her expression was also very calm. No arrogance or rudeness. And no fear of putting up a strong front. Aren't they trash? Each and every one of them should have learned at least 5 years of skills in the academy. They should be at least 17 or 18 years old, right? They don't even know the most basic combat skills. Are these students fit to be called elite students? Gue Wu snorted coldly as his vile words didn't give those students any face. When those students heard that, an embarrassed and ashamed expression surfaced on their faces once again. Zi Qianqian and the rest's expressions were steely green as they called out to Yiqing Luo softly, asking her to hurry back. Their hearts were filled with resentment towards Yiqing Luo. This Yiqing Luo seemed to be standing up for them, but in actual fact, she was humiliating them till they were too ashamed to show their faces. Yiqing Luo totally ignored Zi Qianqian and the rest's actions. She smiled elegantly as her pair of charming eyes looked at Gue Wu calmly as she laughed lightly, because they are not you. Gue Wu was stunned as he didn't understand the meaning of Yiqing Luo's words. Gue Wu master, not everyone is like you, possessing such excellent innate talent and enviable ability. This is an ability bestowed upon you by the heavens, but it doesn't mean that everyone has this ability. She said it word by word as she fixed her gaze on Gue Wu. Her brows were filled with calmness. Those ashamed students suddenly raised their heads as they looked at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. Yiqing Luo continued, in 5 years, you can advance from an ordinary cultivator to a high-level cultivator in the Earth Profound Realm, or even more, to the Sky Profound Realm. When you're 17 or 18 years old, perhaps you're already a Sky Profound Overlord expert, an unrivaled Gue Wu master. But that's your unique innate talent. These students, they are just ordinary people, or perhaps their innate talent is slightly stronger than ordinary people, but after all, they are not you. That's why, Master Gue Wu, you can't demand these ordinary students, or even those slightly talented profound practitioners, to be like you, based on your talent and rhythm. Everyone is born with a purpose. Their abilities might not be fighting or profound qi. They might also have outstanding talents in artifact forging, medicine concocting, or other areas. The students in the training grounds all fixed their gazes on Yiqing Luo without blinking. There seemed to be a ball of fire burning in their hearts. Yiqing Luo's words gave them a huge confidence. That was right, they were not ghost warriors. He did not have the talent of the ghost martial artist. Not being able to become as powerful as Gue Wu was not because they were trash. What I want to say is that none of us are useless. The real trash are those who only know how to retreat, and don't dare to take a step forward no matter what danger they encounter. After Yiqing Luo finished her words, her brows rose as she looked at Gue Wu, her pink lips curled upwards. Master Gue Wu, what do you think this student said, is right? Gue Wu narrowed his eyes which were filled with deep meaning as he sized up Yiqing Luo deeply. This girl was indeed different from what he had imagined. He actually said something that even he couldn't refute. Chapter 14:23. Wasn't this considered as giving a slap on the face and giving a carrot? All of Gue Wu's words were stuck in his throat. This was the first time Gue Wu was blocked by someone other than Zhou Mo, and all his words were stuck in his throat. He wanted to say something, but didn't know how to open his mouth. Looking at Gue Wu's gloomy and cold expression, but not spitting out a single word. Zhou Mo laughed unkindly as he held onto his stomach. One hand hooked onto Gue Wu's shoulder, while the other raised a thumbs up towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Her smile was called a flower's branch, which was called 1,000 dainty and 100 enchanting. Even if it was a man, he was almost bewitched by that enchanting face. Shut up. Gue Wu waved his hand and slapped Zhou Mo's hand away, as his expression darkened, as he stared at Yiqing Luo's direction. He didn't say a word, but only used that pair of extremely dignified and oppressive gaze, as he stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was also extremely calm, as her pink lips rose slightly, as she calmly and politely gazed at Gui Wu. 4 pairs of eyes met, and no one took half a step back. Yiqing Luo's words made those students' hearts surge with an indescribable palpitation. None of them were trash. The real trash were those who only knew how to retreat, and didn't dare to move forward. They weren't geniuses, and if they wanted to become strong, they needed to rely on continuous hard work, to learn, to struggle. Gui Wu's innate talent was invincible. He could treat them as trash. But they couldn't belittle themselves. The entire audience was silent. Everyone's gazes were fixed on the training ground, on the young girl with a face that could topple cities. The smile on her face, the resolute and calm gaze in her eyes. All of them were filled with convincing, unlimited hope. Everything in the surroundings dimmed down. As though everything in the world was not as dazzling as her. She actually dared to challenge Master Gui Wu. Moreover, her imposing manner was not inferior to Master Gui Wu's imposing manner. If they were to face Master Gui Wu's gaze, they probably wouldn't even be able to look at each other for a moment, before kneeling down and surrendering. The various academies' students suddenly understood. This young lady who shone brilliantly in the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition, and became a legendary figure in the West Continent, wasn't an undeserved reputation. The students of the various academies no longer feared the 4 instructors. These 4 instructors were so powerful. Gui Wu also did not emphasize that they had to win against the 4 instructors. Moreover, the students of Nantao Academy were all sent flying. What were they afraid of? Just as the students were about to charge forward bravely, he heard Yiqing Luo's elegant voice ringing once again. Since I've stood out and refuted Master Gui Wu's words, then naturally I can't just talk without doing anything. Next challenger, Heavenly Academy. She paused and heard Zi Qianqian reprimanding sharply, Yiqing Luo. You're crazy. Did you even ask for our opinion? Yiqing Luo being in the limelight had already caused Zi Qianqian's heart to overflow with resentment. She had been restraining the anger and jealousy in her heart. But when Yiqing Luo mentioned the next challenge, all of Zi Qianqian's rationality had collapsed. Yiqing Luo was intentionally trying to harm her, so that she would lose all her face in front of the various academies, and in front of Ghost Martial Master. Hadn't Yiqing Luo harmed her enough during that interclass competition? What kind of state was Yiqing Luo trying to force her into? Zi Qianqian's resentment towards Yiqing Luo was getting more and more intense. Chapter 1424. Qianqian. Wei Beilai noticed Zi Qianqian's situation and immediately grabbed her wrist, reminding her in a low voice. However, Zi Qianqian's thoughts were all on Yiqing Luo at this moment. Her eyes were ruthless as she clenched her fist. Yiqing Luo, you have no team spirit at all. The Heavenly Academy is not decided by you alone. What right do you have to make decisions for us? The students from the various academies looked at Zi Qianqian, who was known as the #1 beauty, in shock. Their eyes were filled with disdain. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. Her curved eyebrows outlined a long and narrow arc, which made that pair of charming eyes look even more demonic. She looked at Zi Qianqian with a smile full of ridicule. Looks like student Zi Qianqian is the real waste. Earlier, Yiqing Luo's words had obviously said it. The one who retreated was the waste. Zi Qianqian reprimanded Yiqing Luo hysterically, which was obviously because she was afraid of the 4 instructors. The students from the various academies couldn't help but burst out laughing. What #1 beauty, what goddess of the class of gods. From this look, the rumored Zi Qianqian was just a so-so. Qianqian. Wei Beilai suddenly pulled Zi Qianqian to his side and frowned. Wake up. His fingers pinched Zi Qianqian's body hard. Zi Qianqian cried out in pain and turned to look at Wei Beilai. Suddenly, she froze. The scene of his hysteria just now kept repeating itself in his mind. This was jealousy. She was jealous of Yiqing Luo. Because of jealousy, she lost her rationality. At this moment, Zi Qianqian had to admit that she was jealous of Yiqing Luo. Listening to the ridicule from the surrounding students and the way they looked at her, Zi Qianqian couldn't help but tremble slightly. Her hands clenched into fists. Her smooth fingers were embedded into the skin of her palm. It's not that I don't want to go on stage. Zi Qianqian restrained the trembling in her voice and tried hard to maintain her usual tone. I just can't agree with student Yiqing Luo's selfish behavior. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she glanced at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Why would I care about myself? It's not your own business to challenge the instructors. Shouldn't you ask for our opinions before you challenge them? Zi Qianqian said as he turned to look at the students from the Heavenly Academy behind him. Su Xiaoyan understood and immediately responded, That's right, that's right. What right do you have to challenge me just because you say so? The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 naturally stood on Zi Qianqian's side. All of them were seething with anger as they criticized Yiqing Luo's arbitrary actions. Instructor He and Instructor Chu's faces were gloomy as they stared coldly at Zi Qianqian and the others. Instructor Chu glanced at them coldly and the corner of his mouth twitched. Before he could say anything, he heard Yiqing Luo's light and melodious laughter entering his ears. He stopped his voice and looked at Yiqing Luo. Because I never counted on you at all. Yiqing Luo gave a light smile as her charming eyes were filled with disdain and ridicule, so, I don't need to ask for your opinions. You. Su Xiaoyan's face turned cold as she pointed at Yiqing Luo with trembling fingers. Her hand was pressed down by Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian raised her head arrogantly as her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with a sinister coldness. All right, since you don't count on us, then I'd like to see how powerful this legendary, stunning and peerless student Yiqing Luo is. The Heavenly Academy's internal strife was seen as a spectator by all the major schools. Perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo had argued for them and Gue Wu said that they were trash. Chapter 1425. Yiqing Luo smiled. I can't say that I'm powerful, but the only thing I can confirm is I'm definitely more powerful than student Zi Qianqian. You. Zi Qianqian gritted her teeth in anger. Her beautiful face looked extremely strange because of her malevolent expression. Yiqing Luo had already shifted her line of sight, as her charming eyes looked towards the people on the main stage. My devil class, including me, will send out 4 students to challenge the 4 instructors, to have a 4 versus 4 battle. What does Master Gue Wu think? The moment she said that, the entire training ground turned silent. The students from various academies looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. Some students dug their ears, unable to believe what they had heard. 4 versus 4 battle. Did Yiqing Luo need to play it so big? An academy, 200 students, had no way to withstand 3 moves from 4 instructors. There were only 4 of them, what could they do? Student Yiqing Luo, do you know what you're saying? Zhou Mo raised his eyebrows in interest as he asked with a smile. Yiqing Luo's gaze was calm. Yes, I know what I'm doing. You're representing the entire Heavenly Academy. If you lose, it would also represent the results of the Heavenly Academy. Zhou Mo continued. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she shot a meaningful glance at Zi Qianqian's direction. I think they absolutely have no objections. How could they have any objections? Yiqing Luo's stubbornness, to Zi Qianqian, was the best way to escape from losing her face. Zi Qianqian, as a student of the class of gods, must support the battle with the 4 instructors. But Zi Qianqian was very clear of her own battle ability. With Yiqing Luo's stubbornness, even if she lost, the blame would eventually fall on her. All this was because of Yiqing Luo's arrogance. Zi Qianqian naturally had no objections. Hence, Yiqing Luo calmly chose Yan Xiaoyi and Kitty Li. Taking another look at Long Yunzhan, she finally chose the petite lowly, Mo Yuing, who was beside him. Including Yiqing Luo, it was a lineup of 4 female students. The students from various academies were all stunned. Heavenly Academy wasn't joking, right? 4 versus 4 battle, this was already shocking enough. Now, there was actually a female army. And each was more petite than the other. One was weaker than the other. This was hand-to-hand combat, hand-to-hand combat. Was Yiqing Luo sure she didn't choose the wrong person? Even Gue Wu and Zhou Mo were stunned by the female students that Yiqing Luo had chosen. Student Yiqing Luo, are you sure you want to choose these 3 students to challenge the instructor? Zhou Mo narrowed his long and narrow phoenix eyes, unable to conceal his interest towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo nodded indifferently. Zhou Mo was in high spirits as he couldn't wait to see Yiqing Luo's brilliant performance. The 4 instructors didn't reveal any disdain or belittling attitude just because Yiqing Luo and the others were 4 female students. The 4 of them wore indifferent expressions as they assumed a defensive posture. Instructor Luo took another look at Yiqing Luo. Instructor Luo had a deep impression of this female student because she was the first to run 10 laps without panting or blushing. Now that they saw Yiqing Luo being so insolent, directly saying that she wanted to have a 4 versus 4 battle with them, Instructor Luo didn't feel that he had been belittled by Yiqing Luo. On the contrary, he was extremely excited. They were extremely curious about what kind of miracle this girl could bring them. The 4 of them faced each other head-on. He was a tall and sturdy instructor. Standing in front of the 4 petite female students, he was totally like a huge mountain. His shadow was able to cover the female students. Chapter 14:26. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly. The so-called challenge is actually for the instructors to understand our skills and abilities, so as to adjust our fighting style and skills. Her voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. Under the clamorous discussion, it was still clear to the ears. The surroundings gradually quietened down. Because of this, when the instructors are battling with the various academies, what you want to see is not which student was sent flying, but which student was sent flying under the instructor's attack. Fighting skills, fuse profound qi, then you will be able to unleash the greatest power of profound qi. Yiqing Luo's gaze looked straight at the devil class's students, as though she was lecturing them. Or as though she was lecturing the other students. Yiqing Luo didn't have the leisure to bother about how those students understood her words. If they were willing to listen, naturally there was no harm to them. But, if they only held the attitude of, this Yiqing Luo is pretending again. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste time to explain. Because this kind of person would be eliminated by the society sooner or later. Ha ha ha. Student Yiqing Luo, you're indeed the dark horse in the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition, not bad, not bad. Zhou Mo, who was on the main stage, laughed evilly. A pair of red phoenix eyes stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. He hooked his arm around Gue Wu's shoulder, raised his brows and smiled. Ah Wu, this lady is really sharp, your thoughts have been seen through by her. Gue Wu didn't reply. With a gloomy face, he looked coldly at the 8 of them on the training ground. Please. After exchanging greetings, the instructors spat out the same word in unison. Their words had just ended when the 4 petite figures in front of them disappeared from their sight. A strong sense of oppression wrapped around the 4 instructors tightly. The few instructors looked at each other and revealed their first expression today. It was interesting. Finally, there was an opponent who was worthy for them to be serious. Ha! A tender reprimand was heard from the side. Yan Xiaoyi unknowingly appeared beside Instructor Ren. She threw a punch towards Instructor Ren's face. Instructor Ren's body bounced as he speedily retreated a few steps. Immediately after, a fist-sized pink furball was thrown towards him from the other side. Bang! Instructor Ren's face was hit by the pink furry ball. Instructor Ren furrowed his brows as he felt a scorching pain. What a trick! Instructor Ren wiped his face and looked at Mo Yuing, who was swinging her hair that looked like two furry balls hanging from her shoulders. Immediately, with a loud shout, his sturdy body flew towards Mo Yuing. Playing tricks with the instructors? The surrounding students were stunned. This trick really hurt the instructor. Furthermore, none of them had been sent flying by the instructors. Mo Yuying's figure was petite and extremely nimble. The moment Instructor Ren pounced on him, he extended his legs and leaped to the other corner of the training ground. He didn't forget to wave the two furballs in his hands to harass the instructors. Kitty Li and Yan Xiaoyi worked well together. After a few moves, Instructor Ren's face was hit by a ball. None of the other two sides were able to gain an advantage. The instructors tacitly distanced themselves from the four female students in front of them. They admired the tacit understanding and cooperation of the four female students, as well as their ferocious attacks. Just the four of them were more powerful than the hundreds of students just now. They knew that they had no way of winning with speed. Moreover, they wanted to attack in close combat. Chapter 14:27. This was the reason why Yiqing Luo chose Yan Xiaoyi, Kitty Li, and Mo Yuing. The three of them had roughly learned her set of footwork. Yan Xiaoyi's weapon was a sickle and she was good at close combat. As for fighting techniques, she had some understanding. Kitty Li was from the Beastman race, half-human half-cat bloodline. Her movements were nimble and she could easily move between the four instructors. As for Mo Yuing, her body was petite and looked like a puppet without any spiritual qi. But her body was extremely nimble. The two pink fur balls on her shoulders could be used for close combat and long-range attacks. Coupled with Yiqing Luo's set of footwork, he had completely restrained the four instructors. Not long later, both parties had fought for about 1 incense's time. The instructors had after all experienced thousands of battles and quickly adjusted their battle tactics. Not long later, it became a one-on-one situation. After the four instructors exchanged blows, they discovered that these four female students' teamwork ability was extremely strong. Not only did they have sharp reflexes, they were also able to block their moves in the shortest time possible. Hence, the instructors tried their best to restrain the four female students, not allowing them to get close. Yiqing Luo's opponent was Instructor Luo. Instructor Luo's height was above 2 meters and he looked burly, but in fact he was extremely nimble. And his own fighting ability was the most powerful among the four instructors. Take my punch. Instructor Luo swiftly struck out a punch, bringing along a scorching hot wind as it brushed past Yiqing Luo's cheek. Yiqing Luo's palm moved as her body tilted backwards. She raised her hand and her slender little hand directly blocked Instructor Luo's fist. Both hands clashed together. Immediately, the dust under their feet flew up. Both of them retreated a few steps at the same time. Instructor Luo's eyes were filled with excitement. Good fellow. I didn't expect student Yiqing Luo to have such powerful skills at such a young age. Yiqing Luo modestly pursed her lips into a smile and immediately blended in with Instructor Luo. Fists and kicks clashed, the simplest and crudest fighting technique. Every punch and every kick brought about a terrifying hurricane. After a few more moves, both parties were forced to retreat a few steps. And on the other side, Yan Xiaoyi and the rest were gradually at a disadvantage under the pressure of the instructors. although they could rely on Yiqing Luo's set of footwork and their own advantages to gain the upper hand. But after all, they were only training their stamina, and the time they had spent on hand-to-hand combat was still short. Naturally, he couldn't compare to the instructors who had been through hundreds of battles. As time went on, he began to feel powerless. After a few more moves, the three of them were sent flying. In the field, there was only Yiqing Luo left, fighting with Instructor Luo. The other three instructors immediately flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The powerful fist wind was extremely shocking. Yiqing Luo was still entangled with Instructor Luo. He could feel the aura coming from all directions. A faint smile appeared on his face. Then, he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and somersaulted sideways. The encirclement of the four instructors instantly fell through. Yiqing Luo didn't stay any longer. He extended his feet and teleported behind the instructor. With a flip of his palm, he struck the instructor's back. Yiqing Luo didn't hit him casually, but hit the acupuncture point on his back. Her feet didn't stop at all as she flew up and kicked towards Instructor Ren, who was pouncing behind her. Bam! Two loud crashing sounds were heard. The two instructors fell to the ground. Yiqing Luo was also evading Instructor Fang's attack. With a somersault, she was coincidentally hit by Instructor Li. Her petite body landed heavily on the ground. Chapter 1428. Alright, that's enough. Zhou Mo's voice stopped Yiqing Luo from pouncing towards the four instructors. Zhou Mo's narrow phoenix eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo, as his eyes were filled with deep meaning. Yiqing Luo's skills were very eye-catching. Not only that, those few female students from Devil class were also extremely outstanding. Over 200 students had no way to subdue the instructors. But in the hands of the four of them, they had exchanged numerous blows and were even injured. Zhou Mo was almost certain. If the four instructors had not restrained one student each, and allowed the four students to cooperate, this battle was very likely to be won by these four students. Heavenly Academy's performance is very eye-catching, you can go back and rest first. Gue Wu's voice was extremely cold, without any emotions. Gue Wu's voice made those students who were stunned on the spot, unable to regain their senses for a long time. What did they see? Devil class sent out 4 female students and 4 muscular instructors, for against 4 combat instructors, they were actually evenly matched. The most shocking was the last scene. 4 instructors combined forces to attack Yiqing Luo. Although they had indeed hit Yiqing Luo. But Yiqing Luo had also injured 2 instructors at the same time. 200 students' encirclement couldn't even touch the corner of the instructor's sleeves. Whereas Yiqing Luo, relying on her own strength, under the encirclement of 4 instructors, she was still able to repel 2 instructors. This skill was simply amazing. Even the cold-faced Gue Wu, who had just accused them of being trash, opened his mouth to praise her. No wonder Yiqing Luo dared to be so arrogant, arrogantly suggesting 4 against 4 combat. It wasn't for the sake of acting cool. But Yiqing Luo really had this ability. And she believed that the students in her class had this ability. That's great. Heavenly Academy can go back and rest. Then what about us? Don't tell me we still have to continue fighting. Then hurry up and fight. The earlier we get abused, the earlier we can return to the dorms to rest. The students' wails rang incessantly. But in their tone, there was no longer the nervousness and fear from before. Thank you, Master Gue Wu, Instructor Zhou Mo. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she bowed slightly towards the main stage in a neither arrogant nor impatient manner, following that she led Yan Xiaoyi and the other 2 back to Heavenly Academy's area. Student Yiqing Luo, you've done a great job. Instructor Ho gave a rare smile. Instructor Chu smiled and praised. I knew it, if it's you, you will definitely have a way to save the Heavenly Academy's reputation. Because of that, from the start till the end, they didn't stop what Yiqing Luo wanted to do. Because they knew very well. Yiqing Luo would not fight a battle that she had no confidence in. Yiqing Luo used the 4 versus 4 combat requirement to go against the drill instructor. This also meant that she was 80% confident in her heart. Even if he couldn't win, he wouldn't leave the arena in a sorry state. Just like just now. Yiqing Luo and the other 4 female students were fighting with the 4 drill instructors. Yiqing Luo and the other 3, as long as they were able to exchange more than 3 moves with the training instructor, they would be able to win. It was still better than the situation of those 200 students being repelled at the same time. Even if he lost, he wouldn't be in a sorry state. Now the ending, not only did they not end up in a sorry state, but it also gave the Heavenly Academy a good name. It had announced to all the academies that the Heavenly Academy was called the Top Academy. It was not an undeserved reputation. Chapter 1429. Hearing Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu praising Yiqing Luo, Zi Qianqian and the rest's faces turned green and red. But in front of so many people, they could only swallow the anger in their hearts. After all, Yiqing Luo had indeed saved the Heavenly Academy's reputation. And indeed, she had fought against the 4 instructors and had won the praise of Ghost Martial Master and Zhou Mo. But Su Xiaolian couldn't suppress the jealousy in her heart. You also know it's luck and that the instructors are giving way to you? She sneered sarcastically, her eyes were filled with anger. Such a proud show-off, I thought you didn't know. Her voice wasn't loud. But it wasn't small either. At least the students of Nantao Academy around them heard it loud and clear. Instructor Ho's face suddenly turned cold. Su Xiaolian. Su Xiaolian was berated and all the students' gazes converged on her. Her face suddenly flushed red and her eyes became wet. Line up. Go back to the dormitory. Instructor Ho glanced coldly at Su Xiaolian, as if he was looking at a plague, and looked away in disgust. The Heavenly Academy students didn't speak because of this heavy atmosphere. Instead, they lined up one by one and followed the 2 instructors out of the training ground. The moment they walked out of the training ground, Instructor Chu said in a deep voice, "The rest of the students are dismissed, it's free time. Student Su Xiaolian, follow me." Su Xiaolian was still walking in the middle of the crowd, with a few other students, angrily rebuking Yiqing Luo. Suddenly she heard the deep growl hanging from the antenna and was stunned for a moment. Before Su Xiaolian could react, she only felt her body lightened and immediately the uniform was stuck in her throat. She saw Instructor Ho directly grab Su Xiaolian's uniform from behind and with a little force, Su Xiaolian was lifted up into the air. Su Xiaolian flopped a few times in pain. When the other students saw this, they knew that Su Xiaolian's various actions had completely annoyed the 2 instructors. All the students lowered their heads and no one spoke up to plead for Su Xiaolian. After the 2 instructors carried Su Xiaolian away, the Heavenly Academy students were divided into 2 teams. Zi Qianqian was very angry today. He stared resentfully at Yiqing Luo, secretly gritted his teeth and turned away in the opposite direction. In the solemn study room, an old man in a white robe was stroking his white beard, smiling at a bronze mirror in front. That bronze mirror actually showed the scene of Yiqing Luo and Zi Qianqian going their separate ways. "My lord, this year's Heavenly Academy is really extraordinary. There's finally an interesting program." Standing beside the old man was a slightly plump old man with a warm smile on his face. "Ever since you mentioned about this year's interclass competition in the Heavenly Academy, this lord already had a great interest in this devil class." Indeed. It didn't disappoint this lord. The white-clothed old man nodded his head in satisfaction. This batch of good seedlings needs to be trained properly. In the future, they will definitely achieve great things in the Nirvana realm. These two were the director and Tian and Chanchan. The vice president smiled helplessly. Let's observe for a while first. Master Gue Wu has a strong self-esteem and is extremely arrogant. His training is something that ordinary students are unable to adapt to. Today Yiqing Luo, that lass's face was hurt. I'm afraid he will think of a more torturous way to torment the devil class's students. The director of the general hospital just quietly stroked the beard on his chin. A glint flashed in his eyes. Indeed, there weren't many who could persist without training under Gue Wu Chanchan. Chapter 1430. The next day, before dawn, a loud and clear bell rang in the school dormitory. Following that, Instructor Luo's deep voice echoed, "Students from various academies, I'll give you 2 incenses time to gather at the training grounds with the fastest speed. Whoever is in last place, everyone from the last place's academy is forbidden from eating lunch. Yesterday, other than Heavenly Academy's students. The other academy students were totally tortured to death by these 4 instructors. All of them were exhausted, and when they returned to the dormitory, they collapsed onto the bed to rest, not even able to eat a single mouthful of food. When they woke up, yesterday's exhaustion and the feeling of an empty stomach instantly attacked them. The last place couldn't eat lunch. Then where would they have the energy to train? Immediately, the students of the various academies scrambled to their feet, washed up, and put on their clothes. When the various academies' students rushed to the training grounds with sleepy eyes and disheveled clothes, they saw a team running laps around the training grounds. Green and white uniform, simple and elegant. This was Heavenly Academy's uniform. That team was Devil Class. When Yiqing Luo led the Devil Class's students over, everyone saw the team's faces clearly. They were indeed Devil Class's students. You all. Nantao Academy's students pointed at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. All of them had gone through a lot of hardships before they crawled out of bed and sped over here. Devil Class's students had actually arrived long ago. And the entire class was running laps together. Hadn't they enjoyed enough of yesterday's 10 laps running? Devil Class's students have the habit of morning exercise. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Various academies. Some of them also had the habit of morning exercise. But after yesterday's torture, the muscles on their bodies had tightened and had yet to recover. And today, Master Gue Wu would definitely give new instructions, and it would be even more tiring than yesterday's training. Was it really a good idea for Devil Class to waste all their energy on morning exercise now? Just as they were talking, suddenly a red-crowned crane's cry was heard from the horizon. It was sharp and melodious, cutting through the sky as it flew across the sky. They saw a huge red-crowned crane approaching from afar with extreme speed. That red-crowned crane had a beautiful and exquisite arc on its broad wings. As it flapped its fan, it carried a powerful aura. The surrounding air also seemed to circulate along with the flapping of the crane's wings. The white feathers were as pure and holy as snow, as if they were coated with a layer of multicolored light. What a noble and matchless red-crowned crane demonic beast! Everyone from the various academies had their eyes on the crane. When the immortal crane neared, everyone was shocked to discover something. There were 2 figures standing on the crane. A noble demon dressed in a moon-white brocade robe with a jade belt. One of them was dressed in black and had a cold look on his face. Ghost Martial Master. Instructor Zhou. The students immediately stood up straight and greeted the crane respectfully. Zhou Mo's gaze swept across the crowd and finally fell onto Yiqing Luo. On the foreheads of the devil class's students, there was a thin layer of perspiration. He immediately understood. He couldn't help but gave a low laugh as he used his hand to nudge Gue Wu beside him, as he teased, "Looks like you weren't ruthless enough yesterday. Look at the devil class's students, they can even bring their own classmates to run 2 laps and above." Gue Wu shot a cold glance at him, as his lips tugged coldly. Chapter 1431. One after another, the students from the various academies rushed over. Enchanting was also late. Looking at her exquisite makeup and neat clothes, it was obvious that she spent most of her time on dressing up. At the same time, when the last stick of incense burned out, the bell rang. Both Gue Wu and Zhou Mo were still standing on the back of the red-crowned crane, overlooking the students below. Suddenly, the corner of their eyes fixed on a certain place. Not far from the training ground, a petite figure was moving, as if trying to avoid the sight of others and quietly blend into the crowd of students. However, that petite figure had yet to get close to one of the student teams. A gust of wind swept down and landed beside the figure's feet. The figure seemed to be startled. She shrank back a few steps and fell to the ground. Su Xiaolian. The students from the Heavenly Academy exclaimed when they saw that person. That figure was Su Xiaolian. Her face was pale as she fell to the ground, shivering. Hearing someone calling out her name, Su Xiaolian looked at the Heavenly Academy in a daze. "It's the people from the Heavenly Academy." Then. The students from the Heavenly Academy are the last students to arrive at the training ground today. The ones who are banned from lunch are the Heavenly Academy. The students from the various academies suddenly screamed. One by one, they cheered. They were so hungry that their chests were sticking to their backs. They were worried that they would be the last student to arrive at the training ground, causing the entire academy to starve along with them. If they really became the culprit, the academy would definitely target them. Now it was confirmed that the last student to arrive at the training ground was Su Xiaolian from the Heavenly Academy. Their hearts that were hanging in suspense could finally be put down. Su Xiaolian heard the voices from the various academies. Her petite body shrank back in fear. She didn't even have the courage to look up at her own class. That look made many of the male students from the Heavenly Academy feel a little unbearable. Su Xiaolian. What are you doing? Why can you still come to the training ground? Weren't you expelled from the Heavenly Academy? You're not even a student of our Heavenly Academy. This doesn't count, she doesn't count. The students from the Heavenly Academy were suddenly anxious. This Su Xiaolian. On the way from the Western continent to the Southern continent, he kept causing trouble for everyone. And even caused the Heavenly Academy to lose face in front of other academies. On the other hand, Su Xiaolian was completely unaware of this. Now, they were even forbidden from having lunch. No matter how well they usually played together, the students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 reprimanded Su Xiaolian without hesitation for their own benefit. He did not even acknowledge that she belonged to the Heavenly Academy. Shut up. Instructor Ho's frozen face seemed to be covered with frost. He glanced coldly at the students from the Heavenly Academy. The Heavenly Academy is particular about teamwork and loyalty. Since Su Xiaolian is the last student to arrive at the training ground, then she shall obey the rules and be prohibited from having lunch. Since the instructor had spoken, the students of the Heavenly Academy did not dare to refute. Gue Wu stood on the back of the red-crowned crane as he frowned and stared at the silent Yiqing Luo for some time before nodding his head lightly. It would be best if Heavenly Instructor is willing to follow the rules. In other words, the ban on lunch in the Heavenly Academy had become a foregone conclusion. Chapter 1432. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her piercing gaze stared deeply at Enchanting's direction. She noticed it. Su Xiaolian, who seemed to be filled with guilt, timid and fearful, raised her eyes to meet Zi Qianqian's gaze. Yiqing Luo also knew clearly. Su Xiaolian had intentionally become the last to arrive at the training ground. And this deliberate action must have been under Zi Qianqian's orders. This knowledge made Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh out loud. Zi Qianqian's jealousy had turned Zi Qianqian from the high and mighty, pure and holy goddess, into the current goddess. Women. Indeed easy to be controlled by their own emotions. In order to make the devil class ban lunch collectively, to come up with such a rotten idea. And also slightly tipsy. Devil class could not eat lunch. Could it be that they could eat it? One must know, they were representing the Heavenly Academy. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue, facing Zi Qianqian, whose IQ had plummeted. She didn't even have the interest to tease her. Under the wailing of the Heavenly Academy, Gue Wu and Zhou Mo leapt down from the crane and stood on the main stage. Zhou Mo clapped his hands. Four instructors were seen walking to the front of the main stage. Each of them took out a space bag. Thump thump thump, several heavy objects landed on the ground, crackling and rattling reverberated throughout the entire training ground. Then, items that looked like golden silk soft armor poured out of the interspatial pocket one after another. Those soft armors looked extremely light and thin. But from the sound of the soft armors landing on the ground, it made the students from various academies' hearts beat like drums. Inexplicably there was a kind of ominous premonition. Here, are specially made soft armors. One soft armor weighs about 70 caddies. Each of you, come here to receive a soft armor. I'll give you 2 incenses time to change into the soft armor and report to me. Several instructors spoke in a deep voice. The students' eyes widened. 70 caddies soft armor. Can we still walk with 70 caddies of soft armor? This isn't training, this is cruel torture. The students wanted to cry but had no tears. However, the devil class students had already taken the lead to receive their own soft armor. There were even a few students who requested for 2 soft armors. The student's expression. His heart was on the brink of collapse. Devil class students, are you sure you're not joking? Were they sure they could wear 2 sets of soft armor? One piece weighed 70 jin. 2 freaking pieces weighed 140 kilograms. Could they still play happily? Can we still happily train together? If these students knew, other than these soft armors, devil class students were also wearing gravity belts on their bodies. The heaviest of them weighed at least 25 jin. Plus the weight of the soft armor. Each of them carried at least 100 kilograms of weight. No matter how unhappy the students were. In the end, he still obediently stepped forward and received his soft armor. In just a moment, the students from the various academies, who had changed into soft armor and stood on the training ground again, were all pale, as if they were facing a great enemy. Some of them even felt their legs go weak and were on the verge of collapsing when they walked. From now on, before the end of the training, none of you are allowed to take off your soft armor. Gue Wu's ice-cold voice resounded throughout the training grounds. His sharp eyes swept across, and a cold chill caused those students who were still wailing in pain to stop their voices. Chapter 1433. Yes. Awed by Gue Wu's imposing aura, all the students responded in unison. Gue Wu retracted his gaze and continued, then today we shall officially start our training. Now all the students will line up and follow the instructors towards the Blazing Flame Nest to carry out the outdoor training. Blazing Flame Nest. These 4 words made Yiqing Luo's brows jump abruptly. This place. It was the place where the Heavenly Dean and the Dark Forces had an agreement to offer the students' souls to the King of Darkness. Could it be that the Heavenly Dean had already started to take action? Or perhaps This Gue Wu was also someone from the dark forces. Blazing Flame Nest. Master Gue Wu, we can't go there for the time being. That's right, the Blazing Flame Nest has been very strange recently. Our families have been reminding us not to go near it. I heard that there had been some changes in the Blazing Flame Nest recently, and the Imperial Tutor had prophesied that there would be a divine object descending into the world in the Blazing Flame Nest, causing batches after batches of forces to enter the Blazing Flame Nest. But none of them had returned alive. When the students heard about the location of the Blazing Flame Nest, their faces instantly turned pale. Recently, there were rumors about the Blazing Flame Nest flying around. Gue Wu actually wanted to lead everyone towards the Blazing Flame Nest. Although the students didn't want to defy Gue Wu's orders. But the minute they recalled the rumors in the Blazing Flame Nest, they were extremely terrified. Gue Wu frowned, not understanding what the students meant by the rumors. He looked towards Zhou Mo. Zhou Mo shrugged his shoulders as he stood out to smooth things over. Our training will only be at the periphery of the Blazing Flame Nest and will not enter the inner part of the Blazing Flame Nest. Whereas at the periphery, the various elders from the headquarters have set up an enchantment to protect the students' safety. As long as the students follow the rules and don't fall behind, then there absolutely won't be any danger. Zhou Mo's words made those students who were clamoring to change the location to quieten down. Blazing Flame Nest. Will there be a problem? Long Yunzhan also heard from Yiqing Luo that the dark forces were preparing to lure the students into the Blazing Flame Nest. Hearing this news, Long Yunzhan was slightly stunned. We still have to make a trip there. If there's any accident, immediately bring our brothers and evacuate. Yiqing Luo lowered her voice. It's much safer to enter the Blazing Flame Nest with Yunzhan. In the end, the location of the field training was decided to be the outer area of the fire nest. Gue Wu and the 5 drill instructors were present, as well as the various elders from the headquarters, who had set up a barrier to protect them. The students gradually let down their guard. The main reason was because they really had no other energy to think about other things. With the 70 kilograms soft armor on his body, he could still walk a few steps. But after the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, he began to struggle to move and began to pant. This was especially so for Enchanting. Her meticulous makeup was soaked in sweat, and her entire face was covered in rouge. Many of the female students had only put on some light makeup due to time constraints, so they were not as disheveled as Enchanting. They hadn't even walked a quarter of the way, and there were already students complaining incessantly. The one who suffered the most was, the students of the devil class, walked in high spirits, their faces calm, totally unable to tell that they were wearing a 70 kilograms soft armor. Chapter 1434. Among them, there were devil class students who were wearing 2 sets of soft armor. Furthermore, and there were 2 female students who were wearing 2 sets of soft armor. These 2 girls didn't even crease their brows, no different from usual. The various academy students. Damn it. Were they still human? Were they all a bunch of freaking perverts? The students' pride had suffered a huge blow. Gue Wu and the 5 instructors didn't ride on that red-crowned crane, nor did they ride on horses. Instead they walked, leading the way at the front. The group, close to 2,000 over people, majestically headed towards the direction of the Blazing Flame Nest. It was so powerful that basically everyone in Valley Wind City knew about it and everyone knew about it. Momentarily, numerous commoners started to flock over. Gue Wu and the accompanying elders from the main courtyard didn't obstruct them. Surrounded by a group of enthusiastic commoners, he walked with difficulty. Yiqing Luo was still bewildered. Wasn't Gue Wu a mysterious figure who couldn't be more mysterious? Appearing in front of everyone's line of sight in such a grand manner. Wasn't he afraid that his mysterious persona would collapse? The truth had proven that Yiqing Luo's bewilderment was unnecessary worry. Because even if Gue Wu walked in the middle of the group in a grand manner, no one would believe that the young man who had that invincible youth, that young man's face, would be the famous Gue Wu master in Nirvana realm. Because of his young age, no matter how handsome Gue Wu and Zhou Mo were, walking at the front. But it still didn't attract much attention from the commoners. Yiqing Luo's forehead was filled with black lines when she saw this. Alright, previously she also couldn't believe that Gue Wu master would be someone who had a show to face. The surrounding commoners started to crowd more and more. Originally, these commoners wanted to see the valiant youngsters who represented Nirvana Realm's flower of hope, as well as the rumored Gue Wu master. But the reality made them exceptionally disappointed. Close to 2,000 over students were all sweating profusely, staggering as they walked. Were these still the youngsters who represented the flower of hope? Even an ordinary walk seemed to be throwing away half of one's life. Could it be that these people who cultivated Xian Qi moved their Xian Qi and relied on flying to get by? Finally, the gazes of all the commoners landed on the 2 youths and 4 middle-aged men who were walking at the very front. Their steps were light and quick, and they were neatly lined up with the devil class students. Which academy is that student from? There are so many students in the academy, but the only one who is normal is that academy's student. Let's send our children to that academy to study. That's the uniform of the Heavenly Academy. Someone recognized the uniform worn by the devil class students. Heavenly Academy. The first academy. This is the academy that has been named the best academy for many years. This is indeed the first academy. Compared to the other academies, I seem to understand why the Heavenly Academy is so strict in enrollment. The discussions of the commoners were extremely ear-piercing to the ears of the students. Their faces were red, and they were extremely embarrassed. He tried his best to walk in a normal posture. However, the weight on their bodies was getting heavier and heavier. They were grumbling in their hearts, wondering if this Gue Wu master and the 4 instructors were doing this on purpose. There was obviously a small path from the main academy's training grounds to the blazing flame nest, which could be taken as a shortcut. But Gue Wu master led the way, towards the main path, directly towards the direction of the city gate. Not only did it extend the route. Chapter 1435. Could it be that Gue Wu was intentionally trying to ruin the reputations of the various academies? Or Gue Wu had actually been bribed by the Heavenly Academy? Were they intentionally helping the Heavenly Academy to build up their reputation? In fact, the weighted soft armor on the Heavenly Academy was fake. The students from the various academies were all immersed in their thoughts. Just at this moment, they heard another round of discussion coming from the crowd. Look, the group at the back are also Heavenly Academy's students. What's wrong with these students? Why do they all look so sickly? Heavenly Academy's students. Why do they also look so sickly? The First Academy's students can't even walk properly. That's right. I heard that the students from the Heavenly Academy who are participating in the exchange meet are selected from several classes. Among them, the Devil class, which has the reputation of Heavenly Academy's Waste Class 1, is also here. Waste Class 1. That is to say, those students at the back are actually the Waste Class 1 students. They must be the Waste Class 1 students. I also heard that the Heavenly Academy had brought 2 students from the class of gods, and one of them is the number 1 beauty of the Heavenly Academy, Enchanting. Look at the Heavenly Academy team in front, that female student leading them, isn't she devastatingly beautiful? Then it must be Enchanting. Tisk tsk. The exchange meet is such a sacred event, why must the Heavenly Academy bring along such a waste team? It's such a disgrace to the Heavenly Academy. The surrounding crowd looked at Gue Wu's group of students as they discussed excitedly. They were just short of rushing up to Yiqing Luo and the rest and asking them personally. Zi Qianqian and the rest's expressions turned uglier by the minute. These foolish commoners of the South Waves continent, they actually dared to call them the trash class, the students of the devil class. But, no matter how much resentment they had in their hearts, Zi Qianqian and the rest were stunned and none of them opened their mouths to refute the commoners' discussions. They were recognized as students of the devil class. The commoners treated Yiqing Luo as Zi Qianqian. Instead, they chose to tacitly agree. At least, in the eyes of outsiders. They, the students of the class of gods, the elite students of the Heavenly Academy, had finally preserved their reputation. Zi Qianqian's #1 beauty reputation had at least been preserved. The students from the other major academies had expended all their energy on walking with the weights. He didn't have the leisure nor the energy to speak up for the devil class. Especially when he saw Yiqing Luo and the others with a relaxed expression, following behind Master Ghost Marshal with an extremely satisfied look. The students had even less thoughts of helping the devil class. At this moment, they were extremely vexed. It was very clear. To cultivate Xian Qi, one should also have a strong physique. But they insisted that training their physical bodies was a waste of time. Instead, he spent a lot of time on how to raise his profound level. The students of the various academies suddenly recalled some time ago, during the interclass competition in the Heavenly Academy, the students of the devil class were collectively chased by low-level magical beasts, almost circling the entire mountain behind the dormitory for more than 10 rounds. At first, they only treated this news as a joke. Once he said it, he would be happy, and it would be over. However, only now did they realize how foolish their thoughts were back then. So, the students of devil class had long been training their bodies. Suddenly, all kinds of praise for the students of the Heavenly Academy's class of gods and the elite students behind them were in full swing. Chapter 1436. A voice stirred up thousands of waves. The surrounding commoners were all excited, not Zi Qianqian. Isn't that Heavenly Academy student? I remember her. Previously at Ling Wang's tomb. I've met her once. That person cried out agitatedly, I'm absolutely not mistaken. She is Yiqing Luo. She's the one who obtained the god relic and contracted with the White Tiger's sacred beast and divine dragon, the World Mercenary Group's vice group leader, Yi Qing Luo. That was Yiqing Luo. That person's words made the surrounding commoners' eyes widen as they stared straight at Yiqing Luo. That was Yiqing Luo. Regarding Yiqing Luo's deeds. Although it all happened in the West Continent. But the people in the South Continent had more or less heard about it. Yiqing Luo was not only the vice group leader of the World Mercenary Group, she was also a student of Heavenly Academy's Devil Class. Devil Class. Which was the Waste Class 1 which they were talking about. As for Yiqing Luo, she was walking among those handsome-looking, young and energetic students. Which meant to say, what they had guessed earlier was that the class of gods and the elite students of Heavenly Academy were actually students of Devil Class. Whereas the students who they thought were Waste Class 1 were those elite students. The surrounding commoners' voices instantly quietened down. Only the sounds of people drawing in breaths could be heard faintly. Following that, the South Continent students started to boast about Devil Class's students in various ways. All of them were extremely interested in this class, which was obviously labeled as Waste Class, but had become this year's Black Horse, which had charged out of everyone's eyes. So much so that the class of gods and those elite students were almost trampled underfoot by those commoners. Zi Qianqian and the rest's expressions were filled with gloomy clouds. Looking at Devil class's students, they seemed as though they couldn't hear the surrounding commoners boasting and frenzied shouts. All of them had a calm and unperturbed expression as they walked forward. This look, in Zi Qianqian and the rest's eyes. That was a blatant mockery. Physical exhaustion. The surrounding commoners' ridicule. And the contempt from Devil class's students. The Heavenly Academy's students were feeling more and more exhausted. When they reached Valley Wind City's city gates, Gue Wu suddenly stopped. He turned his head, his cold gaze sweeping across the rows of students behind him. The expression on his face did not change in the slightest, and his voice was cold and emotionless. Once you leave this city gate, don't even think about retreating. If you feel that you can't hold on, you can choose to leave now. Don't waste our time. Quit. Thinking back to the day before, those students who didn't complete 10 laps were all forcefully sent back to the academy and disqualified from participating in the exchange. It was easy to imagine what would happen to those students when they returned to the academy. He would definitely become the laughing stock of the academy. Thinking of this, the students clenched their teeth. No matter what, they refused to say the words of giving up at this time. The following training will be even more brutal than yesterday and today. The weight-bearing software on your bodies will also continuously increase the weight. Furthermore, in the next few days, don't even think about having a good meal or drinking water to your heart's content. It is very likely that he will be hungry and thirsty for an entire day. Instructor Luo's majestic voice sounded. As soon as these words came out, the hearts of the students who had vowed that they would never back out suddenly trembled. Obviously, they were somewhat shaken. They were very clear. Chapter 1437. Now, based on yesterday's training, as well as today's weight-bearing soft armor, weigh your own stamina and ability to see if you are able to last through the next 5 days of special training. Instructor Ren's voice was very calm. Among the 5 instructors, Instructor Ren seemed to be the easiest to talk to. Why are you talking so much nonsense with them? Suddenly, Instructor Li, who had been silent for a long time, could no longer tolerate it as he pushed Instructor Ren aside. You bunch of trash. If you think it's tiring, then get lost from our special training team. Stop wasting time. Following that, he pointed towards those 2,000 students. If you give up now, you can do whatever you want in the future. You don't need to carry weights, and don't need to starve. These few instructors' words seemed to be tempting those students. And quite a number of students were indeed bewitched. The 70-kilogram weight-bearing soft armor was already taking away half of their lives. If it continued to increase in weight, wouldn't it take away their entire lives? Even if the academy's elders or instructors tried their best to dissuade them. There were also close to 300 over students who chose to quit. After the time it took to burn a stick of incense. A group of close to 2,000 students was left with 1,500 over students. Gue Wu didn't stay any longer. Leading the 1,500 over students, he headed straight towards the direction of the blazing flame lair. The blazing flame lair was located in the most mysterious depths of the South Continent's border. It was similar to the cold demonic beasts in the West Continent. It was a place for various large mercenary groups or various academies' students to complete missions or capture demonic beasts. This was considered as a sacred place in the South Continent. Setting off from Valley Wind City, it took several hours of journey. Along the way, Yiqing Luo acutely discovered that there were extremely messy and complicated footprints on the ground. It seemed as though many people had passed by this place. Yiqing Luo had heard of that rumor regarding the blazing flame lair. It was said that the imperial tutor of the South Continent had prophesied that there would be a divine object descending into the blazing flame lair. This led to various powerhouses sending people to snatch it. However, none of them survived. These footprints were probably from those cultivators from various powerhouses who entered the blazing flame lair. Until they reached the blazing flame lair, Yiqing Luo didn't see a single person passing by. Blazing Flame Lair was indeed worthy of its name. Following Gue Wu and the other instructors standing at the entrance of the lair, they could feel an extremely intense heat wave surging towards them. The heat waves made the students feel extremely hot. The sweat on his body evaporated by the heat. He felt increasingly stuffy. The students of the devil class were all feeling uncomfortable from the heat wave. Gue Wu looked at the entrance of the blazing flame lair, before turning to look at the students behind him, who were still approaching them one by one. He calmly said, "All students will rest here for 2 hours. Once the head institute's elder has set up a barrier in the safe zone, we will all enter the flame nest together." He heard that he could rest. The students who had staggered over fell to the ground on their butts. At this moment, how could he care about his image? Why would he care about the differences between men and women? They just wanted to fall to the ground and never get up again. Zi Qianqian and the others followed behind the crowd, panting heavily as they rushed over. Their uniforms had long been soaked in sweat, and even their hair was wet and stuck to their skin. That feeling was indescribably uncomfortable. The students who came later saw the students lying on the ground and knew that it was time to rest. Zi Qianqian did not care about her image as the number one beauty. Chapter 1438. After rushing for several hours, she was still wearing the weighted soft armor. And outside the blazing cavern, she was surrounded by the surging heat. Her throat was extremely dry. One by one, the students took out the water pearl and started gulping down water. Gue Wu and Zhou Mo stood at the entrance of the blazing cavern, paying attention to the enchantment which the elders had set up while sizing up those students. Gue Wu frowned tightly as his gaze fell on Yiqing Luo for some time. Following that, he looked towards the direction of Zi Qianqian and the rest. His brows creased even tighter. Devil Class's students, after arriving at the entrance of the blazing cavern, didn't immediately rest. Instead, they observed the surrounding environment acutely. After confirming the surrounding environment, they gathered together and took out the water pearl. Each of them drank a few mouthfuls to soothe the burning sensation in their throats before they stopped and closed their eyes to rest. And those elite students who were praised by Heavenly Dean and Elder Yunxiang. But after arriving at the entrance, they had no image at all. From yesterday's 10 laps of running, and the battle with the 4 instructors. And from today's situation of carrying heavy weights and walking for half a day. The aptitude of Devil Class's students was obviously much higher than the so-called class of gods by many times. Are you curious? Zhou Mo hooked his arm over Gue Wu's shoulder as his phoenix eyes rose slightly. Devil Class in Heavenly Academy had always been treated as a non-existent waste class. It was rumored that for 2 to 3 years, no teachers had been sent to teach in Devil Class. Gue Wu frowned as he glanced sideways at him. Only Yiqing Luo, this young lady, managed to pass the admission assessment in half an hour's time. In the end, she probably offended someone in the academy and was allocated to Devil Class. That's when Devil Class gradually started to be remembered again. Zhou Mo especially went to investigate on Yiqing Luo's information. This information could be easily found out in Heavenly Academy just by casually inquiring about it. Gue Wu narrowed his sinister eyes. The rise of Devil Class was absolutely not just because of Yiqing Luo's arrival. Yiqing Luo had only entered Heavenly Academy for a few months, not even half a year. In a short span of a few months, it was impossible to train that batch of waste to what they were now. To have this kind of tacit understanding, this kind of stamina, this kind of ability. It was absolutely not something that could be trained successfully in a day or night. At the very least, he had trained for 2 to 3 years. Such a class was actually treated as trash for so many years. Zhou Mo immediately continued, that old man Guiyu, also went to the devil class because of Yiqing Luo, and also went to teach there. All this while, the devil class had never had a teacher teaching. Then what's the point of these students staying in the Heavenly Academy? What was the Heavenly Academy up to? Wait a minute, Guiyu frowned. You mean Guiyu? Zhou Mo raised his eyebrows. Yes, that old man Guiyu also fell in love with Yiqing Luo, and because of her words, he accepted her brother as his disciple. Accepting a disciple. Guiyu narrowed his eyes with interest. This little girl, he really wasn't simple. There was something about her that people couldn't fathom. Even the lunatic old man Guiyu was subdued by her. This special training is getting interesting. At this moment, the 4 drill instructors who were standing at the side and looking at the students were also discussing in low voices. What do you guys think of that lass from Devil class? After being an instructor for so many years, this is the first time I've seen such an energetic student. Chapter 1439. Instructor Ren rationally opened his mouth. This batch of students is indeed the most outstanding students we've seen in the many years we've been in this position. Instructor Luo hooked his arm around Instructor Ren's shoulder. I'd like to have a one-on-one battle with that lass. Fighting with you guys isn't as satisfying as fighting with her. It's rare to see you all praising a student together. Instructor Fang's gaze swept past Yiqing Luo, who had her eyes closed. Not only are you all interested in that female student, Master Guiyu and young Master Mo also seem to be interested in her. The few instructors' gazes immediately shifted onto Zhou Mo and Guiyu. Qing Luo, the training instructors have been looking at you. Yan Xiaoyi leaned her head over and whispered into Yiqing Luo's ear. Emin, Yiqing Luo responded indifferently. The 4 of them didn't conceal their gazes at all. Even if she didn't turn back, she could feel that the 4 of them were staring at her. Emin and Guiyu and Zhou Mo were also looking at her from time to time. Yiqing Luo knew that too. The performance of her brothers in the devil class for the past 2 days was indeed too eye-catching. To be noticed by these instructors was a matter of course. But Yiqing Luo didn't put it to heart. She had no intention to restrain herself and let her brothers continue to hide in the dark. I have a feeling that the instructors will think of ways to torture us. Tong Ziqing narrowed her eyes and said coldly, I've heard that the instructors who specialize in training students love and hate students like us the most. Most of the instructors probably had this kind of mentality. Listening to orders, obeying all the instructions and completing all the tasks in the best manner. This kind of students made the instructors very fond of them. But it also made the instructors want to test how big this kind of student's potential was. Because of this, they would constantly increase the intensity of the training, torturing these capable students. In terms of abnormality, I feel that no one is more abnormal than Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi raised her brows disapprovingly. No matter how these instructors want to train us, we can take it. You'd better save some energy and saliva and have a good rest. Yiqing Luo interrupted their words. The special training in the blazing flame nest will be much more intense than your usual training. Pausing for a moment, Yiqing Luo's sharp eyes swept across the surroundings as she lowered her voice. Inside, there might be a tough battle to be fought. The expressions of the devil class students suddenly congealed. Before they came to South Tide Continent, they had heard Yiqing Luo mention that she wanted to find some time to make a trip to the blazing flame nest. The place which Yiqing Luo was interested in must be an extremely important place. Therefore, before anything happens, all of you should properly receive the training of the Ghost Warriors. Of course, while receiving training, you also have to preserve your own forces. Yiqing Luo's words made devil classes students all nod their heads solemnly. He rested for about 2 hours. The elders of the main academy repeatedly confirmed that there was no problem with the barrier, before returning to inform Guiwu. Guiwu looked at the pile of students lying on the ground, his brows tightly knitted together. However, he did not urge the students to get up. He only nodded lightly. After resting for such a long time, Zi-Qian and the others gradually recovered their strength. The sweat on their bodies had been evaporated by the heat waves in the blazing flame nest. Zi-Qian could obviously feel that his face was extremely uncomfortable. Chapter 1440. When Su Xiaolian's vision was fixed on Zi-Qian's face, she let out a terrified "aw." It attracted the attention of all the university students. When they saw Zi-Qian's face, all of them started laughing. Zi-Qian realized something as she hurriedly took out the palm-sized bronze mirror which she always carried with her. In the bronze mirror, his comical face was reflected. Zi-Qian instantly spat out a mouthful of blood from anger. Yi! Qing! Luo! She gritted her teeth as she growled out Yi Qing Luo's name, her eyes filled with venomous hatred. The bronze mirror in her palm was crushed by her. The broken mirror cut Zi-Qian's palm. She totally didn't notice it. Zi-Qian blamed herself for being so comical and embarrassing herself in front of the various academies on Yi Qing Luo. She totally didn't think about it. All these were because of her. Under the circumstance that she knew it was training, she still put on such exquisite makeup, which caused her to become a laughing stock. However, Zi-Qian had cleanly pushed the blame away from him. After another hour, Ghost Doctor urged the students to enter the blazing flame lair. After resting for a period of time, the students' energy had mostly recovered. Entering the blazing flame lair is equivalent to entering another space. Guiwu's tone was solemn, as cold as ice. You'd better listen to what I say. If you disobey the instructor's orders and cause yourself to meet with danger, or get seriously injured or even die, the headquarters will not be responsible. Yes. The students replied in unison, as they responded loudly. Blazing Flame Lair, as the name suggests, is a land of flames. In the deepest part of the Blazing Flame Lair, is an incomparably huge cave. Hence, after entering the Blazing Flame Lair, you will feel as though you're in a sea of flames. Guiwu's words made those students' faces surfaced a sliver of astonishment. The periphery of the Blazing Flame Lair has already been sealed off. If you obediently move around within the boundary, the heat from the periphery will not take your lives. Guiwu continued. The students' faces turned slightly pale. But they had already walked to this point, and Guiwu had guaranteed that there would be no danger to their lives. None of them wanted to give up just like that. They could only brace themselves and follow behind Guiwu, as they entered the Blazing Flame Lair. The surging heat waves seemed to be able to roast people. The students immediately complained to the heavens. These heat waves were indeed not life-threatening. But to endure this heat wave for an entire day, even if he didn't die, he would still lose half his life. They opened their mouths and sucked in a mouthful of hot air. His breath was also filled with hot air. Even the surrounding environment seemed to be covered with a layer of steaming hot flames. As soon as they came in, there were students who couldn't wait to drink water. There were also some male students who directly took off the clothes on their upper bodies, leaving only the weighted soft armor on. But even though they were naked, they still felt hot. As for those female students, even if it was so hot that they wanted to take off their clothes, they could only resist this urge. It was like being on fire. And they were meat wrapped in flames. I'm going to die of heat. What the hell is this place? No, I can't take it anymore. I want to go out. I want to leave this place. The students were howling non-stop. There were students who wanted to rush out of the Blazing Flame Lair. However, when they neared the exit, their bodies seemed to be obstructed by something, as they were bounced back. That was a boundary. The students were dumbfounded. Chapter 1441. Of course. Gue Wu paused for a moment. His icy cold gaze made the students who were burning up feel a chill rising up. This chill did not disperse the heat on their bodies. Instead, it made them feel a stifling heat, a chill down their spine. You can choose to reject the training, refuse to follow the team, then think of your own ways to leave the blazing flame lair. Gue Wu said the second half of the sentence. The students were filled with resentment. Under this kind of environment, how could they choose to find their own ways to leave? If they followed the team, at least they would be able to survive these 6 days safely. If they left by themselves, in such a strange place, who knew if they would suddenly meet with danger? They could only clench their teeth and choose to follow the team, deeper into the blazing flame lair. Along the way, more and more male students were left with only one piece of weighted armor. The female students cried out incessantly as they tore at the clothes on their bodies. Among the 1,500 students, there were at least 500 female students. Among them, there was no lack of beauties. But at this moment, those male students were so hot that they did not even have the mood to pay attention to those half-clothed beauties. Even the 4 instructors were sweating profusely. But, looking at Gue Wu and Zhou Mo, both of them had a calm expression, not even a drop of sweat dripping down from their foreheads. As though they were not affected by the heat wave at all. If it was only Gue Wu and Zhou Mo who were fine, then so be it. But countless students realized, following closely behind Gue Wu, were the 60 over Devil class students. Their clothes were neat and tidy, their steps orderly, with a relaxed and leisurely expression. What the hell was this? They were so hot that they wanted to run around naked. Why were the Devil class students not affected by the weather? As students, how could they not be compared to the Devil class in any way? This Devil class students, what kind of perverts were they? After walking for about 10 over kilometers, those students were already exhausted, panting, and had no energy to walk any further. Zhou Mo looked behind him, at those students who had already dragged out a long line, and called out for a temporary break. The students couldn't care less about the scorching heat of the ground. They all fell to the ground and became corpses. Zhou Mo swept a glance at the expressionless Devil class students with interest, as he directly walked towards Yiqing Luo who was drinking water. How did you know that we would choose the location of the special training, to be at the blazing flame nest? I don't know. Yiqing Luo put down the kettle in her hand and raised her head to meet that pair of exceptionally charming phoenix eyes. You don't know. Zhou Mo had a faint smile on his face full of disbelief. If you don't know, then how could you have prepared the ice pearl in advance to resist the heat waves of the flame nest? Yiqing Luo calmly curled her lips as she gave a sweet smile. Frost ice pearl is considered as Valley Wind City's specialty. My classmates and I will naturally buy one each as a souvenir. Icy frost pearl. It was a bead made to counter the heat waves of the fire nest. As long as it was worn, it would not be affected by the high temperature. Because the flame lair was located on the South Wave continent, as the main city, Valley Wind City, all the shops of all sizes would sell glacial ice pearls. Yiqing Luo knew in advance that Heavenly Dean would think of a way to send them into the flame lair, to become the King of Darkness's food. Yiqing Luo also didn't know when Heavenly Dean would execute his plan. So Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to leave the training grounds in advance. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.